Morning, Shelley. I'm good. How are you?
What could be smaller? Oh, Jim Moffat.
Of course, yes. Help me out.
Dave Rolla.
Sorry?
Dave Rolla.
Okay.
Good to meet you. Welcome aboard.
No, I spoke with Jim on the phone a couple times.
Yeah.
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 I haven't been to council meeting.
Okay.
We get your
God. I think that's.
Do you want a magnifying glass?
I'm gonna need it on top of the glasses.
Oh, so that we'll just add that to the shelf when you come in the door.
Oh boy. Good morning, Mike.
Morning. Oh, sorry, I'm in your chair.
No.
Scooch. That's all.
We can both use them.
So before you sit, Mike, this is everything right here. Just put yourself a little package.
One of each of those.
Okay.
We couldn't remember if you were working today or.
No, it's not.
Oh, so you did get the text I sent? Oh, just like 10 minutes ago, maybe.
We've got one here.
Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that the special meeting commence at the hour of 9:04. All in favor? And be it further resolved that Council acknowledges that we are meeting in the Robinson Superior Treaty Area on lands that have been traditionally used by several Indigenous nations. But we would like to pay special recognition to our closest Indigenous neighbours, the communities of Beavergon, Nishnabeg, and Ekmover First Nations. We wish to recognize the long history of the First Nations and Métis peoples in our region specifically and show respect to them today. All in favor? Are there any disclosure of interest or general nature thereof? We'll move to the moved by Councillor Arola, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that the agenda be approved as circulated. All in favor? There are no delegations or presentations, so we'll move to the business.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First order of business is that to discuss with council that they talked about bringing lunch in our wraps, all right for everybody, variety of wraps. Okay, if you stay for lunch, I want you to apply, council, or myself, Shelley, will usually do the lunch. This is Summit, so you could go to lunch for Summit. We have two departments that are fairly small, so before we get into the whole presentation, we're going to give them an opportunity to talk to you about their budgets. One of them is the library, and the other is a new department for us, which is economic development. So Becky, do you want to come on first and explain the difference between the two?
So our budget has stayed fairly similar from last year. We did lose one grant just because it was no longer being offered this year. It was a technology-based grant. And then otherwise, we've kept things fairly similar. The only only other changes we've really made is just an increase a little bit in our building maintenance, because we're hoping to get a little bit more painting done this year. And otherwise, that's pretty much, salaries, those sorts of things change naturally, but otherwise we haven't looked for any changes from last year's budget.
So council wants to look at this document.
Schedule A.
What are we looking at in a percentage increase?
It's not a lot. I don't have the percentages, Mr. Mayor. So for the rest of council who's new, what happens with the library is any revenues that they get offset their operations, and council and general levy finance the rest of library operations. It's up to council whether, with the loss of the revenue, they want to state to the library board that they want them to bring in their budget to account for that loss of revenue, or somewhere in the middle, or accept their budget as presented. Now, that doesn't need to be done right this second, but keep that in mind as you go through the day. That is your discretion how much you want to fund the library operations at the end of the day. We have seen council say to the library board that, we want you to, you've lost the revenue, you now need to cut that. So again, that's entirely up to council at the end of the day. So anybody?
Excuse me, is that just this one line? Is that all we're
Yes.
looking at here?
Yes.
And do we have the 2018 numbers?
Not in this budget. No. The difference is
recall
about
maybe?
the difference is about $8,000, and what it is exactly that. It's salaries that have moved, and it's being a loss of revenue for longer.
So 8,000 difference.
From last year.
Yes.
Is there other grants available for the loss of this one? Have they presented any other new ones?
They
to
haven't,
apply
with all
for?
the cuts that the provincial government has made, we're not anticipating them offering
Providing
us
any
any
other.
new money.
Okay.
We will keep watch on those sorts of things if something does ever come up. but-
Right, you'll be applying for it,
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
If anything, there may be a further reduction in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this year they didn't reduce our operating grant that we get from the provincial government. It's just over $7,000. But that was only a commitment to this year with the provincial cut. So it is possible that could be a further cut moving forward.
Okay.
Just one more, sorry. Is there any plans or possibility of having more revenue coming in to the library?
Right now what we do is services that we offer to the community are free, like programming and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure how else we could increase it without then charging, a fee to come to use library services. We already do a lot of photocopying, faxing, sort of business type services that we charge for all of that. We have been seeing the 3D printer used fairly significantly. It's not a huge amount of revenue, but every print that's being done is a couple of dollars. And the one thing we have noticed since doing the 3D printing is because we've kept the cost so low for each print, we see a lot of donations come in through that, but it's not necessarily something that we can guarantee as sort of a continued revenue stream. It just depends on the generosity of the people coming in. We're definitely open to suggestions, but we don't really have any other way. There's some things we can't charge for because it's under the Public Library Act. A lot of the services are mandated to be free so that they're accessible to everybody.
Such as what?
So you can't charge for anything related to circulation, even interlibrary loans. You can't collect for any of that. You can only charge for things that are outside of sort of books and circulation, so the extra stuff you do,
Okay.
like photocopying, faxing, 3D printing, those sorts of things that you can charge for. You can charge for programming, but again, as I say, we've tried to keep that accessible to the entire community. We don't want there to be people who are unable to attend due to cost reasons, but that would be one of the other areas that we don't currently charge for that there may be potential, but again, it may offset the people who come, because right now we're very busy, but some of those families may not attend if they had to charge for that.
If I recall too, that second grant hasn't always been in existence either, because the library, it hasn't been in existence very long. The library used to only get $7,000. So it's something that's sort of come and now gone.
Yeah, so it was about 4 years. There was 3 years that we got. One grant was broken up over 3 years, and it was a capacity building grant, and then there was a further 4th year that was very technology based, so it was kind of restricted. You couldn't use it for general operations or different things, but you could purchase computers and tech type things, offer tech programs based on that. So it was restricted as well as to how you could spend that money. But yeah, it was about 4 years that it was being offered.
Thank you, that's good.
Morning.
So I'm not sure what information you have in front of you. So there is a small request in this year's budget to cover economic development programs and projects, around $29,590 from the tax base. The remainder of the funds coming from grants and contributions from the community spending. So the total expenditures were $243,000. That represents just less than 10% of the department's expenditure. One of the larger projects is a logo redesign. I'm not sure how council feels about that. Since coming to the PMB, the logo is out of date and not representative of the community and who we are today. When you compare the logo to even the 5 municipalities on the North Shore, it is, it does not stand out. It does not say this is manageable. 65 years ago, so the request in the budget is about $10,000 to look at a redesign. Of course, there would be public consultation, and that would come back to council, and council has the opportunity to accept or reject. So it's not something that we would just go in and do a much larger project. Having done this in other municipalities, it is quite controversial. People have their heartstrings attached to their logo, but at the end of the day, it's control.
You are talking about the Prospector logo? Okay.
The council's information plain stream logo does not belong to the municipality, although we have sort of that. It's not ours.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it belongs to the Economic Development Corporation.
So overall, year over year, this is only about $5,000 increase in the majority of this department spent. And then we have two recruitment for our financing contract right now and its operations. So a lot of this will fall under that funding.
Any questions?
No.
So other than the logo redesign, what sort of things are you?
So one study that we already did, and under this budget is the annual budget.
Okay.
The other study that I earmarked was for the Manitowoc Lake proposed land use.
Right.
So that was the other study. There are some community development type things, like Moonlight Madness, Christmas light display. I did set aside some money to help support the ATV Jamboree, and I am on the ATV committee, and let them know that there is money available if they wanted to enhance their event to bring in more community involvement. The proposal that I gave them was that we have a helicopter and provide subsidized rides for community members and the attendees, and in discussion with them, they declined the offer. So we may not, I mean, I guess that money doesn't need to be in the budget because the ATV Jamboree. However, I do believe that there is an event that could complement the ATV Jamboree. I just don't know what that is, so I could put the money in the budget again next year and continue to work with them on how to better enhance the event and allow more community members to participate.
There are opportunities during the year that come up that you'd be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
One of the bigger projects that I am working on is actually for next year's budget, and it's a county planning exercise that we look at the entranceway and data for revitalization. So just give you the heads up that that will be next year's budget, but funding applications now with anticipation that they will be approved.
What is it, give any more detail on the Manitowoc Lake initiative you were mentioning?
So
That's for
council
this year?
in another meeting approved the virtuals from the MNR.
Yes, I recall that.
So we had talked about doing studies to look at proposed uses, whether it's recreational or residential.
Okay,
So we can't do a study until we know if we own it. That hasn't been. To ensure the MNR has not gotten back to us, they acknowledged our offer. But it appears that perhaps the local office hasn't done this before, so they're in the room as well. So once they get back to us, so they're in, but it seems to be this local. So the money for the purchase is in the budget, but not for anything else at this point.
Any further questions?
No.
Thank you.
So, this is new for all of you, with the exception of the mayor. We have rejigged how we do things a little bit, in the sense that in prior years, we would go line by line by line by line in the operating budget, which really isn't necessary. We are going to highlight for you what the differences are, and we will still go through capital and reserves and show you each one of those items very clearly. For the most part, I think it's a budget that the council can live with. There is some room if council wishes to reduce the tax rates, that will be a council decision. And so if at any time you have any questions, just stick your hands up. So our approach, we wanted to balance the community needs and be accountable to the taxpayers. We wanted to maintain what we have where possible and practical, as sometimes it isn't practical, service levels and infrastructure. We want to recognize that revenues are heavily dependent on residential property tax and OMPF funding. We got $1.7 million from OMPF funding. Be aware that the provincial downloading and decreasing grant revenues are expected 2020 beyond. We expect there will be some reduction in the OMPF. It was stated that it would happen this year. But the Ford government wasn't quite ready with their plans, so they have honored the 2018 revenue levels for 2019. They have absolutely no commitment what will happen in 20. We usually hear about that in November. So we'll see where that goes. Review municipal operating costs and identify efficiencies.
Just for clarification, what exactly does OMPF stand for?
Ontario Municipal.
Infrastructure.
I have it in another
Okay.
slide.
Okay.
I have it in another slide. Yeah, sorry.
No, I understand. You
Yeah,
use it. Yeah.
It is in another slide.
Okay.
So review municipal operating costs, identify efficiencies where practical. In the last term of council, we actually saw some reduction in some staffing positions. It was identified that maybe there wasn't a need for a full-time position in at least one instance, and then the previous council also reduced receptions time as well, with closing the office. And be aware of plan for aging infrastructure. That's clearly in everybody's purview every day, and financing deficits. The asset management plan and transfers to reserves, so we're talking about all of those. So the budget process, municipalities exist under the mandate of the province, and the Municipal Act, and a variety of other provincial acts. We have a requirement by the province to prepare a budget, and this meeting is going to explain how the town's financed and how your dollars are applied. So key highlights, we are suggesting to council a 2.24% increase on the residential tax rate. 1% equals $52,000 in tax revenue or increased expenses. Staffing has increased by 2.5 positions since last year, and all positions are reviewed when vacancies occur. So one full-time is funded for a 2-year term, so we're really only increasing our budget by 1.5. All budgets have been adjusted for staff who are currently on labor on vacant positions up to a certain point. But I do want to caution council that that's just sort of a fix for the 2019 budget or an adjustment to the 2019 budget, because once those positions are filled fully, you're going to see that impact on your 2020 budget. So it arbitrarily reduces the tax rate for 2019 for positions that we haven't had filled. For example, the public works supervisor job. We're going to be interviewing for that shortly. We've modified the budget for that, but it will be in full force in 2020. So, cross-training continues across all operations, and we have a significant increase to reserve funds, which I'll outline later the reason why. The majority of it is council resolutions. So we have 4 sources of revenue taxation, including payment in lieu, and that's when the province pays us taxes for their properties. Conditional and unconditional grants, reviews of these permits, licenses, and other revenues such as penalties and interest, rent, sale of land, etc. The main sources of revenue consist of 2 main components: the tax base, which is assessment of property determined by MPAC, and the tax rates municipal to school, municipal set by council, the school is set by the province. The tax ratio defines the municipal tax rate of each property class in relation to the residential tax ratio of 1. We have 1 and 1.1 in Manitowoc. We are one of the few municipalities that were within the range of fairness in the province. And several years ago, many years ago, we made the change to increase the industrial and commercial ratios to 1.1 so that we could maximize the tax dollars of those properties at the time. And that was many years ago. Council will continue to approve the tax ratios by bylaw, which is a requirement of the province. They have not changed and will not change in many years to come unless the province changes tax policy. Property tax rates are set by council based on the estimated revenue needed to operate and maintain town services and its infrastructure. At any point in time, council can say we want to add a revenue source, reduce a revenue source, cease an operation, which would reduce both revenues and expenses and have double impact on the budget. Property tax rates are subject to provincial regulations, levy restriction, or hard capping for the multi-residential, commercial, and industrial classes. We, I believe it was last year, the year before, opted out of the capping for those properties. We were within the ranges, so we opted out of it. None of those properties will ever be affected again, and we have no other levy restrictions at this point. nor do we anticipate any, unless there's policy change by the province. NPAC is responsible for determining the property assessment valuations based on policies stipulated in the Assessment Act. It was amended in 2017. Properties are valued every 4 years, beginning with the 2009 tax year. 2017 began the third 4-year cycle, so the next reassessment will be in 2021. Assessment increases are phased in over the 4 years. You do improvements to your property, your assessment is going to go up, but it's graduated. If you have a decrease, you have a fire, something structurally happens to your house, you kill your assessment, those are immediate. The assessment for 2019 is increased from 2018. That's normal. It's a third year in the cycle, and includes any new developments, which we currently do not have.
Is that increase you were talking about on 2 slides of the previous? Or? No, I guess it was further back. Recommended 2%.
No, that's what we're recommending the tax rate increase to.
I have a question about that.
Okay.
When was the last time that rate was increased?
This would be the first time in 4 years.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I can explain where the majority of the increase comes from. So the township has the discretion to determine the services that will charge a fee for. Some fees are arena rental, landfill tipping fees, airport landing fees, building permits. They're reviewed every year by council and approved by bylaw and include water sewer rates. The revenue under this other revenues under this category include lottery licenses and building permits. Grants. We have conditional and unconditional grants, and can be from both the provincial and the federal governments and other funding bodies. So the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund.
Thank you.
It's our main unconditional grant. We get 1.718 million in 2019. It's unchanged from 18. And as I stated earlier, we're anticipating a reduction in 2020. We have no indication on how much. Province hasn't given any formula yet. Conditional grant, I guess I just stated that one. Township also receives annual conditional capital grants, which funds various road, water, and construction projects. So this year we're getting $251,000 in gas tax. 117 is our annual entitlement for 2019. There's a one-time top-up for this year only of $134,000. We also get Ontario Community Infrastructure and formula-based funding, and we're getting $213 this year. We also apply for any grants that we can as they become available, and we have been fairly successful in the last 4 years in getting grants. So accessibility grants, we've had 2. One did the reception or the municipal building, and the other one did upgrades at 40 Manitou for the seniors, and they were $50,000 each. So those are nice to have. It takes a long time to get approval for them. The community transportation grant, that's the MyRide vehicle, driver, and some staffing for them. So we partnered with Santi Manitowoc Health with that, and we're going to own the vehicle and maintain the vehicle, and they're going to manage the program as they always have. Funding for special projects such as aquaculture, we got funding to do that. Major capital projects, we received funding in 2018 for upgrades to the water treatment plant, and those upgrades are currently underway. We anticipate they should be done this year or next year. So that was a $1.5 million project, and we got $1.2 million in funding. So that was significant, allowed us to do a lot of work up there.
It's just the water treatment plant itself?
It's the UV system, distribution pumps, and the well lift pumps. We just closed tender and awarded $800,000 and some worth of that work. Deals been issued, and we're underway to put that work. A lot of that is one, our UV system is updated, parts are no longer available. And two, with the well pumps, rather than rebuild, we're going to replace and look at energy efficiency savings there.
So here's the 2019 budget summary as a whole. So we will be levying $4,168,415 from taxes. I believe you have that paper in front of you. Maybe you don't have this one. You do have a longer one. That's the Schedule A again, which is broken down a little bit more so you can see the cost of each department. We highly subsidize community services. I don't think that's a secret in the community. And if you look at each one of those, you can see the net cost of the program. Office Steel, $139,000, almost $140,000. Parks, programs and pool, $146,000. Recreation administration, there is no revenue there, and community centers, $542,000.
Sorry, what's the acronym PIL?
Payment in lieu is when the province pays us taxes on their properties.
I see.
Federal and provincial.
So we're
there's
seeing
that.
a reduction in tax revenue then over time here, or is that what you're seeing? I thought it was over 5.
What is over 5?
5 million tax revenue. Is that dropping?
This has gone up this year.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
I think it's just typo.
Okay.
Skeetal us to make more money than that.
You have a paper, the colored one, they're really hard to, this one. Last year we raised 3.895 million from taxation. This year we're raising 4.168. So there is an increase.
Is that due to the number of houses being sold in the last couple of years?
No, that has nothing to do with it. But what we have seen is the assessed value as well, but we probably won't see that until 2021 in the next reassessment. People are buying properties, the prices are going up, we see that.
And regardless of the 2.2, because the assessed values every year goes up, right?
Yes.
What would have been the increase without changing the tax rate? Do you know that?
Half the notional tax rate. So if we had raised the same money this year as we did last year with the increased assessment, the total tax rate would have been 7.030, and it's going to 7.35 this year. So further on, I'll explain how we got where we are and why the tax rate has increased. Some of it has been the decision of this council, some of it has been the decision of the previous council. So that's just a summary of our budget overall. So where the revenues come from, this is showing you where the revenues are. General government, including taxation, 68%. Building and planning, 5%. Community services and library, so that's all of the recreation facilities and the library, 4%. Health services, we get no revenue from. Public works, 22%, that includes water. Airport, 2%, which is primarily landing fees and fuel sales. Protective services shows at 0 just because it's so small. It's cat tags, dog tags, that kind of thing. So it doesn't generate enough revenue to hit 1% of our overall budget. So revenues by source, taxation, grants, and user fees. Taxation is 50%. That's actually up 2% from last year. User fees 25%. 75 and grants 25. With the percentages, if you go to the decimals, are a little different, but.
Mhm.
So there are three types of municipal accessibility grants: operating capital, reserve, and reserve fund contributions. And the broad categories are controllable: administration, fire, public works, community center. The non-controllable are the OPP, health unit, DSAB, ambulance, etc. Long-term debt, that's a council decision, whether we go into debt or whether we pay as you go. We have long-term debt currently, and honestly, I was doing this on Caramat Road last night, so it needs some updating. So the long-term debt repayment for this year is $186,000, and we have one more payment in 2020, and then we'll be done, and it's about half of that.
Okay.
Then we'll be done with long-term debt, and that's for all of the infrastructure work that we did down through the water sewer lines 10 years ago, and that's the debt from that. Manitowoc couldn't afford to do a project of that size without incurring debt. There's absolutely no way. So operating expenses, protective services include fire and municipal bylaw, 15%, airport is 2%, general government is 25%, building planning and economic development 5%, library 17%, health services include ambulance, health unit, DSAP 2%, and public works is 36%. So 15% of our tax levy, including capital, are uncontrollable to us. In other words, they have their own boards, they give us the bill, and we just need to pay them. So $629,000 of our budget is beyond our control.
On those uncontrollable expenses, how much of an increase has that gone up since the previous year?
Pretty small, but we have started to see the OPP going up. Probably at least about 3,000. At OPP for years we saw it go down because they had a new funding formula, and we were really overpaying for policing. This is the first year in several years that we've seen that go back up. So we will likely see increases every year from now on.
Could you go back to that slide?
With the new police station being open in Marathon, is that going to decrease our services?
That we don't know.
So
Shouldn't, because those officers come here.
So impact services that's roughly the same every year?
It's slowly creeping up, but the increase has been fairly insignificant.
So the overall is what, like 5% or less?
Then less.
Less.
We haven't seen huge increases in any of those at that point, but as the mayor alluded to, we might see some help.
We definitely will see it if these haven't helped.
Okay.
So, and again, they're beyond our control.
No, that's just.
They're going to need as a board tell
Yeah.
us what our levy is and what was paid. So staffing and heating hydro costs are the major expense for municipality. These are the budgets for 2019. So for salaries and benefits, one part of the reason that you're going to see a levy increase this year is everybody recalls minimum wage went up. So that has a huge impact on our operations because of our pay grid. So we saw overall $53,000 increase in our payroll this year as a result of that council. The previous council, we were anticipating that it was going to go up to $15 an hour in January. Province backed off on that. Previous council had said that they didn't want to see any entry-level position for minimum wage, so they maintained the $15 an hour. So like I said, that had a $53,000 impact on us this year, which was 7.1% increase in salaries across the board. So 33%, and other than that, it's just general performance appraisal increases. So significant, 33% of our budget. Heat, hydro, and propane I lumped all together because some of our buildings are heated by propane, others are heated by fuel, some are electric. It was just easier to lump those core services together. And almost 40% of our budget for those two items.
So the increase, like the new boiler system and all that sort of thing, will that change that number for next year?
Yeah, it's too early to tell
Okay.
what that number's going to be at this point.
But it should improve it.
Seeing the history on it.
Okay.
But the initial cost, did that go into the budget? Like, is that why it's so high as opposed to?
It's in capital. This is just operating. Just operating. So overall,
We're going to see that. I don't even know what I'm thinking here. So we're looking at 39%. Do we have a spreadsheet totaling 100% where all the money is?
right here, that's your scheduling.
Scheduling.
I just wanted to highlight those things because they are fairly significant.
Yes.
So then you add the 625, which are the uncontrollable costs.
Mhm.
On top of that, we're at about 45% of our budget is pretty much beyond our control. Staffing and benefits, the council wanted to cut staffing, that's an alternative. But I think the staff are pretty busy, and I don't know that there's a lot of room
No.
for movement there, in my opinion. So capital projects, we're going to get to those on another slide. So we're looking to spend $3.3 million in capital this year. That's also attached to your Schedule A worksheet. If you look at the back of that, you have the capital budget for this year. So 3.37, it's the very last page on Schedule A. We will come to that later. We're going to go through that one in detail. So 3.3 million in capital. We're looking to fund $795,000 from this year's tax dollars. The rest will be funded either through grants or reserves. So this is a tax rate summary. I apologize if it's small, but you have that paper as well. It's not like a really short reading. So on a $50,000 house, for example, last year they paid $3,671. This year they'll pay $3,755, which is a 2.24% increase. So total change for that $50,000 house would be $5,650 because we've seen a reduction in the education tax rate. Without the education reduction, we would be looking at $770 just for the municipal portion. So this shows you the comparator based on assessment. And every property, of course, will be a little different depending on whether their assessment went up or down year over year. The reason you see some of the decreases, the credits in the commercial and the industrial, is the education dropped even more for those classes. So we're getting significant reduction as a result of the education cuts. Questions on this one? So reserves and reserve funds. It's a critical component to the township's long-term financial plan, provides financing for capital assets. Building of reserve funds is accomplished through allocation in the annual operating budget, and we also have an allocation for our surpluses that go into reserves. And we do this to sustain the asset management strategies. We're currently working on our asset management plan, and that will be a great tool in order for us to help plan what our requirements are for the future and year, and Chris Towns is taking on that project. The 2019 general operating budget allocates $572,000 to reserve and reserve funds. Much of this is previously approved by our resolutions, and when we go through the reserve and reserve fund spreadsheet, I'll go into more detail on that. So So our current economic situation, you have the difficult task of balancing the need of the community and maintaining acceptable service levels. We're trying to make every effort to strengthen the local economy, and bringing on an economic development officer is the first step in that endeavor. Providing fairness in taxation and value for service to our residents. That's where council has a major role. If the tax rate continues to climb to provide the services that we provide, does council wish to continue to provide all of those services? That's your decision at the end of the day. OPP costs are uncontrollable, as mentioned, and they're reconciled 2 years later. We now see that that's on the rise. Prevention, downloading, and regulatory responsibilities sometimes lead to uncertainty. For us, the OMPF and the possible reduction of that could have a pretty significant impact on our budget. If we even lose $100,000, that will be significant to our operation. So as soon as we know that, we'll start working some numbers and see what it does to our budgets go forward. Escalating operating costs, salaries, heat, hydro. I've already addressed the salaries. Heat and hydro, there's just cost of living and they go up in our own homes, so there should be no expectation you would be any different. Aging infrastructure continues to be our struggle, as evident by the streets and the issues that we're currently seeing at the pool. We're going to continue to have more and more and more of those fighting fire situations because of the aging infrastructure.
So the salary increases that were over the last, that's what represents the total salaries now? There are no increases going through this year, I mean?
They're included in that.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And they were approved last year by previous council.
They took effect, there are 2 dates. They took effect January 1st for the non-union, April 1st for the union.
Yeah, but they were approved by the previous council as well.
Yes,
Okay.
and then we also have performance appraisals for staff.
And they
so
were
anyone
approved
who's
as
not
well.
at his, they would be approved by the manager.
Yeah, but the amount, the rate was.
Yes,
yes,
correct. Yes, sorry.
So our council will be asked for next year and years
Correct.
in the future, but the salaries that are there now have already been approved by the previous.
Correct. And aging infrastructure. So does anybody have any questions on the broad budget presentation? Going into detail now?
I have a question. When you talked about the federal gas tax and it's to be used for water, roads, and construction projects, is there anything, are you going to get into that later specifically?
We're going to go through that.
Okay.
Yes. It's not for operations.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the Schedule A working paper. This shows you the variance between departments. There is a difference between last year's 3.895, which is 3.9, and 4.1. There's about 300,000 difference between last year and this year. Some of the significant differences are, like I said, we've got about a $53,000 increase in salaries alone. That's 1%. We have 1.5 new full-time positions. That's another 1.5%. So we're already at 2.5%. Things that are different from last year that council have directed, and that's this council, is additional cost for the state park and the consulting firm, which are in this budget, and the purchase of the LUP, which is in this budget.
Okay.
There was also resolutions from the previous council, which you'll see when we get to the reserve and reserve fund, to do with any revenues from the broadband and community well-being funds on a go-forward basis. So just in those items like you mentioned, more than justify the 2.24 without looking and cutting expenses or cutting capital. And those again are council's decisions. If you go to third page of the appendixation. So we're putting money into reserves this year. 77,000, 78,000 are for capital replacement as agreed by council resolution. We did a service delivery review a number of years ago, and it was recommended that 2% of the prior year levy be put into reserves for capital acquisitions and renewals. So we have done that every year since the KNG report, and I believe that's probably 7 years now. I believe, John, that might have been your
Yes,
council.
yeah,
So it's been a number of years. We have continued to do that every single year. $50,000, we are requesting $50,000 for new scuba equipment. And Owen, if you want to stand on that one.
This is for planned replacement down the road. It's not purchased this year. It's from money reserves for replacement of the SCBA to the fire department. Our present system is 20 years old, and we're just doing proactive funding in place when it's due to be replaced. We run now 15 of those units.
Landfill post-closure, that's an annual contribution every year. We have done that for as long as I can recall, and what it is putting money aside when our landfill is full, we need to look at a new one. And if you recall the conversation with the auditor, Mr. Lopez, that's dropping back to 394. This will cost us millions to do. So at that point, we would probably start looking at the province for assistance when that time comes. That's still a number of years away. This is a new ask from council. We recognize that the community center is starting to age significantly, and we've seen that with the pool this year. We've seen it with the roof, we've seen it with the boilers, compressors. We continue to see and fight fires year over year at the community center. This is not new. You will learn, because I'm sure something else will likely happen this year, and certainly in your term that will be unexpected. So what we're looking for is $50,000 put aside for a study to determine whether we replace or rebuild the community center in the future. A big impact on that will be where we end up in the Learn More project with NWMO. The timing of it is a little off. If we're dropped out, we may not consider looking at a new, we may continue to replace. If we are, at the end of the day, selected as a community, our population will grow hand in hand with this, so we would probably really want to look at a new facility. So by setting some money aside, it's the start of planning for the what if when we get there, which is probably a year or two away now. Those studies will be fairly expensive.
Yeah, well, earlier you mentioned that the Northern Broadband, is there an expected revenue coming for that?
That's the next slide.
Okay.
Go to the next slide. So this is where you're seeing the well-being funds. I don't know if all the council is aware, but we use the funds from the community well-being fund that we get from NWMO to contribute to the broadband project. We contributed $600,000 as a community towards that project under the municipal capital subsidies agreement. Council felt strongly that because we were taking the money from reserves that could be used for community well-being, that that money be replaced so that it could still be used for community well-being. So the resolution reads that all revenues generated from the Northern Rock project be put back into reserves until the principal $600,000 is repaid. So that's going to take us a number of years. So you will see there is revenue on the revenue side, but this is the expense. So it doesn't exist in our budget this year. Zero. The other $300,000 is the 2019 well-being allocation. There's also a resolution from council, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but what it basically says is that all community well-being funds will go into reserves to use as funding seed money for other capital projects. So if we need our 1/3, our 50%, whatever it may be, that money is available for that, subject to council wanting to use it for a special project. Now, this council has the right to rescind that resolution and do what you wish, but it was sort of planning for the future rather than, and for the better of the community, rather than giving it to all of the individual user groups, which they did do when they first started getting well-being fund. This council did. The previous council gave $100,000 to the user groups in the first year.
User groups at the end.
There was an application process, and they gave $100,000 to quite a few user groups to purchase. They had to make a submission, and I know that Our Lady Board's got a board. The community garden got some funds. But there were quite a few, and they gave $100,000 away at that time to various user groups.
So the well-being fund is at that 370,000 level now?
No, right now, at the end of this year, it'll actually be at 370 at the end of the year, because the 194 is for the skate park. It's already earmarked for the skate park from the previous council.
So with that well-being fund, if by chance we are dropped from the process from NWMO, does that money go away as well? So in reality, if we don't know, but would it be ideal to use it before the end of the year?
No, the money is there.
No, it's
That
still
money,
on.
once they give it
It
to
just will stop flowing.
Okay, so that what's there is there. That's not going to be taken away or anything. It just
Sorry,
won't.
misunderstood.
It just won't. We won't get any more, obviously, if we're not in the running anymore.
And depends on what NWMO does with the policies, because they continue to change, right? We still might be a community of interest, there may be funding for it, but at this point, we have no idea what that will look like at the other end.
So right now, as it stands, you said at the end of the year there will be the 370, but is it, how much is there now?
300, well, starting October, there will be 370. If this budget is approved, there will be 370.
Again, can user groups still apply for that, or is
No, that would be council's decision, but there are resolutions that enforce right now that would say no.
Yeah, the money is in reserves in case we need it for something.
The idea was that we could piggyback that money, and a really good example of that is the broadband project itself. So we used 2 years allocation towards the project. We spent it, it was gone, but the council resolution, and it was for community well-being, because the internet here really needs, cleaning up. But by having the resolution the council has, that money is coming back to reserves for council to use again. So it's not just gone and gone. They said, yes, we've spent it, we're getting revenue, we're going to put it back in, so that we can again reap the rewards of that.
and it's anticipated to have it back to the full 370?
No, more than that. That's just this year.
Okay.
Just this year.
Okay.
So 70,000 is broadband money.
Right.
We have to replenish 600,000.
Okay.
Yeah, you're 8.7 years before your cash flow is positive.
Okay.
So you'll continue to
When
see
is that going to start?
$7,000.
What's going on with that?
We're hopefully going to have an update in the next week or so. There's some emails going back and forth, but right now, we've been given some information. We're not ready to release it at this point. So once we've got approval from Northern Broadband, we'll be the first to share it with council.
So
used by the end of the month?
Well, we've said that before, but we hope so. Yeah. That's our expectation.
Okay.
Did anybody have any other questions about the 370?
Yeah, so, for example, well-being, would that help the pool potentially?
That's council's decision.
It could.
It could. We don't have any idea. We're going to get to the pool. We have no idea how much that's going to be right now. We have other reserves that we could use for that, for the pool, and we will likely have to do that. The only thing that's included in this budget is an estimation on the pool heater at this time, because we have no idea what the cost of the rest of it is. At this point.
So for that well-being, could it be used for the study on the rec center?
It could be.
Okay.
Could be. But if we're putting money aside.
Yes.
Personally, as a treasurer, the best example is use it to levy grant money.
Right.
You know, if we need 50%, then you can use it for that, or use it to invest in a project that will benefit the whole community, rather than the pool, which is a small group of the community, or a small section of the community. The broadband is one. I'd say most homes in the community have some sort of internet. It also benefits the hospital, the schools, the library. You know, that has a far-reaching impact. But again, it is your decision at the end of the day. So the other one we're going to go to is capital. And you also have that one. The last page of the
Cool.
Well, I guess I printed it, but I'm not sure the printed copy is any better,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, it's fine for me.
I can see the page.
Okay, so I'm going to explain this spreadsheet for you. The budgeted cost is the actual cost in total, regardless of revenue stream for it. Column E, the revenue fund, is current tax dollars. So you're going to pay for that on this year's tax bill. Transfer from reserves is money we have already set aside in another fund for these projects. This could include money from previous years. This could include projects that were not complete last year or in a prior year that are now in reserves. Could be grant money. Could be a lot of different ways that it ends up in reserves. Transfer to reserve fund, we keep it here because it's the year-end working paper as well. We've now moved those into the reserve fund worksheet, which we just showed you. Ontario-specific grant is any grant that we get from the province of Ontario. Long-term debt, again, this is a working paper. We currently are not funding any capital projects through long-term debt. Canada-specific grants, if we're getting a federal grant, it goes in there. We have a separate line for gas tax revenue, and we've now split it up to also include OCFA revenue, more because as Owen and I were trying to figure out the capital component of things, we need to be a little clearer on OCFA and gas tax other than just other unsecured grants, which also come from OCFA. Other revenue is any other revenue source that doesn't fit in one of the others. It could be a donation, it could be a grant from funding bodies such as AODA to accessibility. It doesn't fit into the Ontario or Canada. So Ontario would be specifically for Ontario.
What's the 66,000 then?
That's the money that the state clerk part-time has given us for the state park funds that they raised.
Oh.
The balance of that project is being paid for by the municipality. So we're going to go through this one in a little more detail just so that you're aware of all the capital, because this is also $700,000 from the revenue fund, which is fairly significant. Some of these could be deferred or deleted based on council's wishes, but these are recommendations for 2019 from council. The official plan, I'll start, but Owen can certainly chip in. This has been an ongoing project for a number of years. It's been no secret to this council, the previous council, that we've had a staff shortage. which has led to this sort of unfortunate sitting on the back burner. So by the time we get to this project, we will probably need a little more money, fair to say.
Yes.
But it's just one of those projects that, yes, it needs to be done, and yes, it's important, but there's other things that just keep coming up.
The intent was to bring the plan to council this year. We deferred it last year. They were changing provincial legislation, and with the outgoing council, we didn't think it was solid recommended we wait till the election passed, new council come in and present the official plan to them that you'll be the ones who will work with it for the next 4 years.
So that continues to be in the back of our mind, and as time permits, we will certainly be getting back to this because it is an important project. So the skate park, we have $260,000 for the skate park. 66 is coming from the committee itself through fundraising, and 194 is the balance in reserves for that project. The $35,000 that council approved for an engineer to manage the project is in administration operating. I'm fine now? Okay, so I can reduce that by up to that. Because the consulting fee is exactly that. It's an operating cost. It's not an asset. It's not improving an asset. It's just technical work. Upgrades 40 Manitou. This is what we have to do to get the building in order and ready to be moved in. This money has already been spent.
Excuse me, 40 Manitou is,
This is
okay.
building, or the new senior building. This is a new ask for administration is electronic door system. We've revamped the whole front, and we've now put a policy in place that all doors are locked as you're going through them, because we are confronted more and more by angry residents and residents who just feel they can walk through a door and through into our workspace, which is not acceptable to us. The downfall of that is I'd say 50% of the time I go to the door's unlocked. So, even though there's a policy in place, it's human nature. Oh, I'm coming right back. I'll leave it unlocked, which puts our workplace in jeopardy. So what we're recommending is a door system that works like the hospital. It's a swipe card that based on the security you're given, i.e. some people will only get in the back door. I will have a key to my office, no one else will. The computer room has its own key. So there will be certain securities built into that system. Nobody can go up, only those who have permissions can go upstairs if that's like locked in the front door. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Owen?
And rentals of this room, right now we have to give up keys. So the system we're looking at is cards and manage. So for instance, if a user group rents this room for one evening, we can give them a card, and it's a 24-hour activation, so they can get in the building that night, and then their cards default and won't work anymore.
How often do you actually rent the room in a year?
Quite a bit.
More than you think, and we have like
NWMO is a
NWMO
constant
meetings.
user, different
Yeah.
user groups having meetings in here and stuff, where there's not always a staff member involved.
Court is held in here.
Courts in here, so access for court, stuff like that. There's different times of the year that happens when you get actually.
How
in this
often?
particular room.
How often has there been an issue?
The keys and stuff, there's always an issue with keys. And even just when we have,
Sorry, a manageable issue. I mean, if somebody keeps a key overnight.
well, no,
that'd be a
that's
big
not,
deal.
yeah, you're right, not that.
I mean-
Things like staff change of council, those things. We're doing rekeying of the building the whole time. And when you look at the number of keys that we have and people who get access to this building, we're talking a lot of keys. So it gets costly year after year to do that, where you buy this kind of system, you put it in, and then it can be individual, off and on at any time without rekeying. If you have a senior manager leave the municipal employment, we deactivate their access to that building in a minute's notice.
Did you get a quotation for that?
Yes, that is a quotation.
That's a very reasonable price.
Yeah, it's an electronic system. It gives us access to manage the building full time. So you can change, other than getting the locksmith in and rekeying the whole building, what levels of who gets access where, and give it to keys then to all those individuals. It's over a week's work at the time when we do that.
Okay, so that was one of my questions. If someone has an access key, for example, they don't work here anymore, or
Yeah.
they lose it, something like that, they can be deactivated.
You can deactivate right there within there.
Okay, which also prevents people from going out and cutting keys.
Yes, and no key cutting, it's regulated.
No, but that's what I'm saying. With the
Yeah.
current system, it's
Yeah.
key cutting.
Yeah, it's not like that,
Possible.
very similar to what the hospital has. One of us isn't here, and, Chris phones Margaret and says, I want to access this. We can provide that access that day to Chris, for that day thing. As an example of internal work. Who's got the key, where is it, what goes on with the key, just the number of people in this room, you look, if everybody has a key, and we got to, change that, then we're rekeying the building, it gets to be expensive. So, in long term, this will provide savings and improved operating.
Because the actual access cards are pennies, right?
Yeah, they're pennies, and you program them and deactivate them.
Okay.
So every door that now currently has a key lock would go to this?
I forget.
Or
the
would it
exact
reduce
number of
the
doors.
amount?
We walked through the building and tried to say, okay, what doors do we really need to do?
Okay.
For instance, and look at putting sweeps on all those doors. Perimeter access is the
Favorite thing. Okay.
You look in the fire hall, they got keys and codes in there. We've got 30 people.
Yeah.
If I want to change that, so we've included those doors in this week as well. So we can do that. We can change the accessibility level on a basement.
And would this include rec center and public
No,
works at all?
this
Just this building?
This
Okay.
building. Fire hall and municipal office.
Okay.
To your point, the recreation center is sort of a community building, so there's inspection, there is an expectation of interaction with the staff at a physical level.
Right.
Or face to face.
Okay.
Public works, there should never be a member of the public in the public workshop. So there's not necessarily a need for that. We do see a lot of confrontations here,
Okay.
more than you would think.
Well, we've taken steps from a health and safety standpoint. One on accessibility, and two on health and safety standpoint of access to this building. Just putting the wall up, having the sliding door, the button at the bottom of the stairs up. We're taking those steps to incorporate all this together. And this was kind of
The next logical step.
the next logical step in the building.
It's an ask, it's not a health and safety issue, unless we want to, because there is a recommendation that it's probably.
Do you have a cost or an estimated cost on what it costs you yearly to change locks and things like that?
No, I don't know what that would cost to keep this building.
I think this
How
is-
often do you rekey the building? Ron?
Well, we should rekey the building usually at election times. We didn't do it because we knew we were putting this in.
We're
Yeah.
actually overdue.
We're overdue to do it right now. So we didn't do it this year because we knew we were putting this in as a capital request. So we're actually behind one right now. So every election we rekey. We have a senior manager lead. Depending on the level of access, what goes on, we may rekey at that time.
Okay.
The reality is anytime someone leaves, you should probably look at it. For the
And,
simple reason that you know how many keys they've made and how much damage they could do.
and lost keys. I come to work
Yeah.
tomorrow and got to go fess up to Margaret that I lost my keys. Now you got an issue of key ring, a couple keys floating around.
From a security point of view, this is much better for the price.
For the long term, I know it's a expensive thing today for one day.
It's all
Down
fine
the
and
road,
dandy
every
when it
day.
works. It's when it doesn't work, it's when it's going to become a problem.
Well, it works in every corporation. I have it in all our data centers, and we have it in the hospital, and it works in.
The hospitals and schools in town have all done this week.
Well, I agree. I think it's a great idea. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that it's just another hidden expense where you're going to have to call somebody in to do maintenance on your locks, as opposed to any Joe Blow can change a doorknob or cut a key or do something like that. Now you're
To
dealing with
rekey this building,
specialties.
It takes a locksmith to rekey this building. Because of the layers of keys, the front door, one key will get you in the front door.
Yeah.
We'll get you in the council chambers. Then we'll get you through this door to the admin.
All I'm saying is this type of a program that you guys are going to be putting forward will need a specialty person to do programming and do setting up. So there's going to be hidden costs with it. You might say it's $30,000 today, but in 5 years from now, when the keypad's not working outside or something's wrong, you're going to get yourself a service call, right? And somebody's going to come in and do service on it.
Yep.
And we have that currently, like, we see that our doors fail, and we still have to call the locksmith because they're the only person in town who can do it. You know, so it's a qualified, certified person to fix the doors because we can't get in them. So we have the maintenance either way.
Mm-hmm. It's just like layers upon layers of security.
So there's no other questions on that one. Purchase of land, this is the LUP that this council has approved for the land where the golf used to be. Asset management, we're continuing that project, and that's coming out of 2 different grants with SEPA, and we're getting some money from FCM as well for that. Replace propane tanks and lines. This has to be done. I want to speak to that one.
That's for this building. Your tanks have a life cycle where maintenance has to be done on the tanks. We're due for that maintenance. We have boiler problems continually, and what they're saying is our line, buried line, is pinched off. So now we have to change the line from the tank to the building. So we're planning on doing that. My intent is that Margaret has resolutions, council today to give approval today to proceed with this project. There's actually 2 propane tank line projects on the thing. We have the same issue at the rec center, and as well, this winter we took out the oil boilers and put propane boilers in. Mm-hmm. So we put a temporary tank and running on a temporary line above ground at the back of the rec center. Council's been back to the city. We have it there. So we have to dig in new permanent line and put a permanent tank site in for the rec center this year. So it's a total of $18,500, and we're looking for pre-approval just to get planning of the project. And it'll be Superior Propane doing the work for us. We'll probably do the digging ourselves in-house, and they will do all the piping, tank work, all that stuff. It's their systems.
So we'll come back to that because there's another one.
Can I just ask, will that be affected if we decide to go that liquid natural gas thing? That won't get affected at all?
We have to do this work first. So
we can still
we're a
use
few years away from the LNG project coming. We're aware of that, and when we put the boilers in, our boilers have the ability, just through programming, we don't change mechanical parts to convert to natural gas and propane.
So you're saying there's a kinked line coming to this building that needs to be repaired?
Yeah.
So could that have been an issue with the boilers previous?
Part of it, they're saying that thing, not only that, those other boilers, all kinds of issues, but it could be a factor. But they're saying the line's been in there for, what is it now, 25 years or whatever. They're recommending that.
So you said, Owen, that it was $18,000, but it only shows 10 on here.
Well, it shows 10 under the rec center. Under the rec center, there's 8,500
Okay.
for that tank and piping in the rec center.
So that's the total cost
So
of
both
both
buildings,
buildings.
we try and get them both done, same contractor, same time. So ask for pre-approval on both.
Okay.
Get those started to get those projects underway.
Okay.
Next item, backup generator. That's for this building. So we have a small system right now that runs part of this room and part of the fire hall. Every time there's a power outage, we have to come down and manually fire up those systems. So we looked at the cost and looked at the whole municipal operation. Council recall last year we had a boil water advisory as an example, and the power's off at the same time. This building has no standby power for offices, photocopiers, communication systems, our internet systems, all go down. We lose the ability to use all those things. Plus, no backup heat. So, for this this amount, we would put a total building generator on the in. It would supply 100% of this building in the fire hall. It would be automatic start. Power goes down, generator fires up, and we would continue operating. So this is one, to maintain the heating system, the power's off, and two, to provide emergency backup and operations for the whole facility. Very similar to what we did at the water plant.
So if the power goes down, does it have to be down for X amount of minutes or whatever for it to kick on? So like if it's just a little bump of power surge, it won't come on, but if it comes down for a minute or more, then...
Yeah, it's less than that. I don't know the exact number, Councillor Hudson, but it's basically seamless like it happens at the water plant now, and we don't notice the difference in the operation. It's almost seamless.
And Public Works will have the ability to do the maintenance on this sort of
Yeah,
system?
it would be, the plan is to put a diesel-driven generator, exactly what we did the self-contained units, it we did the water plant.
Okay.
So it would be up to us just to do the annual maintenance, change the oil, things like that.
Okay.
Make sure the louvers are working.
Make sure the louvers are working,
Just to me, that seems like quite a high number.
Huge amount of money.
What was the cost for the one at the water treatment plant?
I don't have enough of it. It's very similar sized generator. This building is three-phase power coming in here. It's large commercial power. It comes in, I believe, at 600 volts. And then there's transformers in the building to put it down. So.
With the generator we have now in the fire hall that runs our doors and runs everything that we need to do our business, would you be able to piggyback and run a photocopier if you had to run a photocopier?
What the idea is this will do the whole building. So it would do the fire hall, the doors, everything. The heat, everything in this building. 100% this system. Right now we have to come down, we have a...
Have we had issues where you needed to have work in here for
sure. Last
long
summer we
periods
had,
of time?
had incidents where we had a boil water advisory last summer.
No, I understand that, but it's summertime, so there's no heat to really worry about, and it's a matter of photocopying some papers, so we were able to get hydro from somewhere else, or go to the library, or use other resources for us.
No, it was community-wide power outage, so we're down totally. So all our stuff, even our phone systems, or power requirements, all of these things. It took a while that day just to launch Code Red, for instance, because I come in, computer's not working. Luckily, I was able to do it through my cell phone. It took a while to sort out how to do that, but I was able to back that up with my cell phone. But
I can well, we were fortunate that day too that the nature of the emergency was a boardwalk for us. But had it been any other emergency and the fire truck was gone, we would not have had the luxury of being able to have the fire truck and bring back portable power. So that means we don't have access to our files to call in the streets, which we need to do in this case, print flyers so that the community can know.
Public Works doesn't have any generators that they could have helped out with?
we're not set up for it. The building is
No, I understand that, but it's the type of situation that may arise once, twice a year, right? So if you're going to put $100,000 into your community for a generator that you may never use potentially.
Well, we have power outages routinely.
Routinely.
Like even during the work week that we're here, the power goes off.
Oh, I don't know. I personally don't experience it, so maybe in my end of the town is different.
Yeah, we've had power down. We just had one recently here.
Anybody else?
We dropped a phase, and then there's things that happen like as a residential house, you won't notice. We just dropped a phase of power.
Okay.
So it affected the value of the hospital and us. The big three-phase of power used for this thing. And there was a day before they got the system up and running and going back. So for a lot of our systems in here, we have to shut them down because they won't run on. They're set up with three-phase power.
I know I sent staff home several times in the past year. It just gets too cold in here, the power's not working, it's not working. Staff can't work in that, and not everybody works in an office too, where they have a well-lit window where they can just do the filing.
The conversation started with improving the system at the fire hall.
Yeah.
The doors, for instance, we have to come down and start a generator to get the doors open.
Or you can open them manually.
Some, not all. The pumper bays we can, the rescue truck bay we can. So right now we back it up by using the rescue truck. But once that truck leaves, we can't back up this room for our emergency control room, our phone system to the building, and do that. So we really don't have a system. So we were looking at an automatic system for the fire hall only, so the doors and all that stuff would be on automatic system. You get a power outage, you come here, the generator's automatically running, we're ready to go. So we looked at that, the cost of charge to do that, we were in the $25,000 to $30,000 range. So we talked about the whole building, the experience that we've had with power outages and trying to manage the emergency for the municipality. And we looked at the price of, okay, what's the cost of this total building? You know, and again, yes, you have a cost, $100,000, but this is going to be here for 25 years. When you look at the life of it and the cost of it over the life of that, I believe it's good.
What makes you think this building's going to be here for another 25 years?
I hope it's going to be here for 25 years.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Yeah, I certainly don't anticipate any change in that.
I have a question over, because 110 seems like a lot, and it's diesel.
And that's installed. You know, remember, we have to put automatic transfer switch in on the building or a pad.
But the building's going to, on propane, correct?
Propane runs the boilers, but we need electric for all the circulation pumps, the boilers itself, and air handlers for the building.
It's going to do everything. Power goes off, automatically starts on. You won't even notice the change. It's basically the system what they want.
Yeah.
So there'd be no change. Your power goes out, boom, you just keep typing away or filing away as per your day or whatever you're doing that day. So it takes away the inconvenience of having to source out another type of power, from what I understand. Right?
So other than last year, has there been, like, how many significant power outages has there been in order to, let's say, drop the heat or not be able to access files, et cetera? For, you know, a substantial amount of time is what I'm thinking.
We've
The
had
last time I was mayor, remember? We had that big week off.
We had 26-hour.
Yeah.
We had 26-hour power outage last time Mr. McCarthy was mayor. You know, so we do
So
get them.
twice in the last 8 years, roughly.
Power outage a lot more than that. Substantial long-term ones. Yeah, you're wrong.
Hydro maintains some type of certain amount of time before power comes back on. Aren't they obligated?
Well, yeah, but that particular time we had there, weather and all those things, they're not able to make those repairs. And if they got a problem where the repair requires a part that they don't have readily available,
Yeah.
now we're into that.
I think it's 24 hours, isn't it, for hydro?
No, they could be 3 or 4 days.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But generally, they
Well,
will have your power
and
up
they're
and
usually
running.
pretty good. Hydro within an hour or two, usually,
Yeah.
you know. Usually, yeah, they're pretty good about it.
Okay.
So we'll come back to that. PPE storage racks.
Yeah, this is for the fire hall, where we keep our bunker gear in the hall right now. The present system we use is made of wood. The volunteers built it themselves 20-some years ago, and we've been looking at them, and it's really a hygiene thing. You go out, you get the gear dirty and black, come back, it gets on the wood. You can't wash the wood, you can't do the stuff, and I've looked at it recently, and the stuff's in there. So what we're planning now is to buy, these are powder-coated metal racks. We'll take all the wood racking off the wall, mount this system, then we can wash and clean, disinfect all that equipment at the time. This is a installed total racking system in this place.
Couldn't we just stain the rock we have now?
The wood,
Yeah.
you could, but I'm not going to take all that, I'm not going to clean all that pregnant stuff out of there, even washing it down and whatever, you know. This has already been purchased, as council remembers. We had a mechanical failure at the beginning of, I think it was February, and we did have a planned replacement, working on planned replacement because of the mechanical failure, and replaced the asset at that time. So it's in service and running now. This is the tow-behind portable steamer that they use at Public Works. We have 2 of them, and one's at the end of its life cycle, so it's planned replacement.
How old is the one need to be
I'm not sure.
not working right?
Yeah, they rot out. What happens is the water tanks and the oil tanks rot out on them. Did some welding on it this winter, but the thing is getting paper thin and it's hard to weld now. And it just keeps. So we run. These units get used lots winter and spring, fall. Freeze up, all the problems.
What's that?
That's a lot of this was put in by the public works superintendent. I'm not sure of all the logistics behind the thing. This was a submission from Superintendent Barnes for adding equipment to one of his loaders to augment the snow removal plan.
You need an extra wing and a blade, 50 grand worth?
I've spoken with Mark this time. I'm not sure of the plan total, so I recommend to leave it in the request at this time. It's not something that I'll act on in the interim here. I would say put the money in the reserve or let that get sorted out by the person who did the plan. It's not something that I plan or totally understand either.
Do you know if they want to do that and not use the grader, like in replacement of using a grader, or are you not sure?
I'm not totally sure.
Okay.
I'm guessing it has to do with the new loader that was purchased last year as an attachment for that unit,
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
just to speed up the snow removal in town is what I'm thinking it's for. Because right now, when they use the grader and sometimes the gravel truck that they have now,
Yeah.
with the plow blade, where this way they could put the plow on the grader and do the same thing.
This goes on the loader.
This
Yeah,
goes on the-
sorry, yes, on the loader. So same idea is what I'm thinking that means.
The next item is the sand truck, plow truck that you're talking about, Councilor Moffett. The present unit's 20 years old, and starting to have lots of maintenance issues with the apparatus. 20 years for us for the sand truck is so this is a planned replacement for sander plow truck unit competition.
So that would also be able to be used in the summertime as a regular gravel
Yeah,
truck.
there's lots of different configurations of those available, and there is a file put together on different types of units and to look at that. Use it, always and sometime as well.
So this would be tandem.
I'm not 100% sure of that.
For that price, I hope so.
Yeah. I can tell you new chassis can be $170,000
Yeah.
today, so, yeah.
Is there a youth market for sand trucks and stuff like that? A couple
Buying
years
a used
old?
one?
Or
Yeah, possibly. I haven't
Instead of going new?
investigated that, but it's a good possibility. There is stuff. Main location, I don't know. I'd have to have a look.
Can you lease?
Yes, you can. I'm not sure what the market's like for that. I can tell you we've looked at it before for pumpers and stuff. So you're paying interest rate of 8 or 10% on top of that amount over time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I often wonder about, if we do planning and then put money away as opposed to going out and leasing something. When if we have healthy reserves, why would you want to spend another 10% on the value of the truck for interest if we have the money in reserves?
So these figures are actually quoted,
Estimate, you talk,
or just a best guess of this?
yeah, an estimated on cost and time, maybe phone a supplier or two and get a budget number to say, hey, what are we looking at?
But the cost would not exceed
This is the budgeted amount, so.
this. This is the improvement.
So it could come in under, like they might get a deal on one for
Yeah,
like 200.
Yeah, you very well could,
Okay.
or, if it goes the other way, if you find out now it's 265, then we have to come back to council and ask for the other.
Yeah. Just for example of that is that large loader that they did buy last year apparently that was a demo or something?
Yes, it was a demo unit.
So
was
that
what
it was way below the actual cost?
Yep.
Or the actual retail?
Not the same as our fire truck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we bought a demo unit, fire truck 1 year in state as well. So those things, and that you can't really plan for. It's at the time, it's what's
Right.
available on the market at the time that you're out there. If you find a demo unit
Right.
that's
Oh, sure.
applicable to us and will meet our needs.
Yeah, if you look into a good deal on it.
Yep.
Okay.
And just so council knows, for example, it's 250, if it came in at 150, the manager does not have the authority to go and spend that 100 on something else. It's for sand truck, if they want to use the balance, they have to come to council. Otherwise, because in this case, it would be coming out of the revenue fund, we have 2 bylaws where that surplus would go into another, back into reserves. So they don't have a free-for-all to spend anything that comes in.
Okay.
It's for the item request.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would a standard procedure being like, yes, we need a sand truck. Would we be watching over a period of 6 months or even up to the full year to see if we can get a good deal on something, keep the old one working? Or this is,
Yeah.
let's go buy one tomorrow?
Well, we have winter season coming, so my suggestion would be get out there, get it spec'd
Oh,
out,
it would be
pricing,
pre-winter.
And have it done for the start of the season.
Yeah, 'cause it-
Have it in place and ready to go for November.
No, I get that to be ready for snow.
Yeah, that's to be ready for November.
But we
You know, a
do-
lot of people traditionally, as you know, we're late this year getting our budget passed. So, and a lot of people run the same cycle. If you're looking at used equipment, people have had their budgets, they're getting their new stuff now, so their surplus stuff, if that's, if you're looking at that kind of thing. Questions on Sandra? Next item is a used vacuum truck. This is becoming more and more the way to do things. These hydro jetters, digging water, sewer, fixing leaks, pumping of the material. They use them nowadays for putting up streetlight poles, everything. So the use is becoming widespread. And in the community, things are getting more complex than traditionally. We had a little incident this winter or this summer, where the sewer line intersected a fiber optic line and cut the line. So now we're trying to dig gingerly around the fiber optic line, where if you have this kind of truck, you vacuum to fill out around that area to do your excavation that way. So the council remembers at Easter, we had a sewer line back up down by the beach area or the lake area, and think this unit could be used to clean that line instantly in time, remove the blockage, pump up the spillage material, all kinds of stuff. So there is a lot of uses. The more we look at this, the more uses become for it, and especially if, with the fiber getting laid out around through town, and the next big one is going to be the LNG piping through town and digging around those pipes. Same thing, we would be looking at hydro vacuum.
Okay, do you happen to have a rough idea how much was spent in hiring vacuum trucks over a 1-year period in town?
There's two things, yeah. I can tell you that they run about $250 an hour plus to bring them in. We recently had them in for a job in town. So you could be easily get into a couple $1,000 a day, easy. And then the other issue is availability. You have a problem like that broken sewer line that Friday evening on a long weekend. We phoned and it wasn't available. We tried to get one in that night, we couldn't. And the same on the Saturday, we had the broken sewer line. I phoned to get one. I never even got a call back from them. I sent them an email and a phone call, and never even got a call back.
All these tools and stuff are great but I mean, now if you get yourself a truck like that, right? I mean, a vacuum truck, who would be doing the maintenance on this
Well,
stuff?
Tom can.
town mechanic does the
Yeah.
maintenance on that?
Yeah.
And do they have like training available or?
It's a pump and a fan. It's nothing
Yeah.
really more technical than,
Okay.
you know, it's the tank itself, the hydraulics, electrics,
Yeah.
those kind of components. You know, this is a used one. These units new are extremely
Oh,
expensive.
that's what I figured for the price. It must be used for sure, right?
They are used. And again, previous council, we bought a landfill site compactor, just so you know when you're buying used equipment, how it goes. At that time, there's basically one rebuilder of landfill site compactors in Canada.
Kind of where I was going with this.
And he is in Southern Ontario. So we went there, visibly took a look at the equipment, evaluated the equipment, made a selection, bought that used one. This isn't like you get to go to tender, because if you're buying used equipment, you don't get to do that. There's only so much available. You have to go down, physically look at the unit. Is it in our price range? Will it meet our needs? Do we think it's worth the value to make the purchase? So purchasing of used stuff is not the same as purchasing new stuff.
And what kind of research is done before you go down to take a look at something like that?
All the regular stuff, you know, for this particular stuff, there's lots of websites, Iron Planet, you know, you can go into pricing. I know Randy looked at Iron Planet and looked around, and, you know, a good resource is we've gone to Ritchie Brothers. You can go see what the market trends are and what's selling at the time.
So like,
Go there. We have what they have available, and then you can look at past values and see what things have sold for. So you get an idea of where you're at on years and value and estimated
so the
value.
unit that you guys brought in to do work in the past, the unit that you'd be buying would be comparable to that type of unit?
Well, that truck, the last one, if anybody's seen the one we had.
A $2 million truck that was here.
It's $800,000.
Yeah.
How old is this one?
You'd be looking probably in, give or take, it depends what kind of hours on it, 2008, 2007 units.
So this is a specific truck that we've already looked at?
Nope, this is, we would go at the time, go back, because personally, I haven't put any time into looking recently. I'm not a tire kicker. If I'm not ready to buy, I'm not wasting my time looking.
Yep.
You know, I have done some, I looked at a Ritchie Brothers sale the other day. There was one last week in Toronto. They actually had 10 of them at the auction sale. So I didn't go back yet to look at the results to see what the market.
So with those type of trucks, obviously it'd be like a different size capacity, different sizes, different, what would be, for this amount of money, would it be
It's
suitable for our needs?
Oh, yeah, you can go anywhere. I've looked at these trucks, from single axle trucks to tandem trucks, features and stuff, you know, you can buy them. If you've seen them, some of them have a big reel on the front with large hose for jetting sewer line. Some of them just come with like a pressure washer built on the back with a small half-inch for excavation. So, you know, features and condition is a lot of things. You know, was it used by a municipality previously? Was it used in industry? How many hours?
So this is just a guess at what you're thinking.
An estimate based on looking, there was.
We're not looking at a specific.
No, not a
vehicle
specific
yet.
used one, no, because I do the legwork and that can be sold by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're another 2 weeks at least before the council gets back to reconvene to approve this, the 30th of July. So after that time, then we would start looking seriously, once the budget was approved, seriously and shopping around. I happen to be in that business before, so I have a little insight into that.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, paving.
This will really want paving done.
Yeah. Personally, I haven't put a lot of time into this. We have been looking at present equipment we own, what we're doing, and the amount of work that needs to be done. I don't have a detailed plan right now. A lot of the paving money comes from gas tax money and stuff like that. So at this time, I don't have a detailed plan for council. We do have an asphalt recycler. We have been using it. We're getting it out. It does a couple things. It gets some holes patched for us. It doesn't work as fast as we really could use. It's good. It helps us consume our old asphalt. It does get some work done. But when I look at the amount that I'd like to do in a day and what we get to achieve, it isn't always in line. So we've looked at some other types of units for small repairs or bringing contractors in to do it large. You know, we're getting late. or the going to tender for paving and that, so. Like I say, I don't have a steadfast plan at this time.
What did we spend last year?
300?
320, I think it was 325.
Yeah,
We
325.
spent 325
That was
last
through
year?
a contractor though, right?
Yes, we had
We had a private contractor.
Pioneer, I think it was, came in last year. I wasn't looking after it then, but I believe it was Pioneer that came in. And what we did then is we had a bunch of patches where we had digs and stuff like that, came in and addressed a number of those issues.
We don't have the actuals, but we budgeted 303 last year.
You don't get much. Mob and demob and asphalt's expensive.
Is that something you guys would consider again for this year, is bringing in a third-party
Yeah, I haven't done
contractor?
any work, like I say, I haven't done any, even go out and measure and mark
Okay.
the areas, I haven't done that this year yet.
Okay, I mean, you did mention that we do have existing equipment.
We have some.
Now, I have seen equipment out around town a couple of times.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why it's not out more often? Is it short of staff, or is it the...
Well, yeah, if we're doing a dig that day, we don't get to pave, you know, and then the system, lots of times we'll plan that they'll fill the hopper in the morning, turn the heaters on. It takes a few hours to get it ready to go. So if we get a load down on the street in a day, you know,
I'm just thinking, like, cost-wise, it's probably cheaper if we do it ourselves by patching, if we're patching more often.
yeah. If we get out there, there's a lot, like if you drive around town right now, I can tell you there's a lot of areas that need patching and paving some roads.
But
Could be
it could
wrong
be-
here, but reading between the lines, I fear that maybe that machine isn't quite the machine we need for this
No,
type
it's
of repairs.
good because we generate a lot. Here's one of the things, we generate a lot of used asphalt as well.
Okay.
Every time we have a dig,
Yep.
we pile that stuff up.
Yeah.
So the next thing, we start to get mounds of this stuff. So recycling it, reusing, fixing the holes is money well spent.
Oh, definitely,
You know,
yeah.
and to bring an out-of-town pothole patch guy is a lot of money. So having those things in-house does help.
I just meant, just to clarify, maybe technology, as it gets better and better, there might be another type of machine that does the same thing, but in a quicker motion, less
There
people
is,
needed,
we've looked at some of those.
packer built into it type
Yeah,
thing.
we've looked at some of those. There's a couple of products on the market called Jet Patch and stuff, where it uses more of a emulsion and gravel mix, so you can produce a lot more patching in a short order.
Mhm.
And I've reached out to some of those products to look at that stuff. You know, part of this is there's a little continuity in the planning stuff, you know. In March, I started doing this again, and, you know, I don't know what was planned prior to that, so what the goal was for this year.
As Councillor Moffat asked,
Sure.
is there a reason why we're not doing it? Is there a,
Manpower,
Man-
a lot of
yeah.
it, and the amount we can get done in a day. You know, it's just.
so basically we should be looking at manpower to do that? I mean, because that is one of the major complaints we get from
Yeah,
people
I understand.
in town.
You know, and
is
part of
that-
it's just this year that I haven't got into it, didn't have it planned, and don't have that work done, you know.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, even if it was one day a week, if that could be fit in their schedule.
Yeah, we do try and put in 1 day a week of that, and it'll take a lot more than that right now to get up.
Yeah.
You know, and
With the people and the tools we have now,
Present
it's
situation, yeah.
it's going to
Yeah.
take a long time.
yeah. You know, so looking at what we own, looking at more productive machines, that's some of the work that's been done. What hasn't been done is to go measure everything out today and say, okay, can we get a contractor in to just list it and get all that stuff done now in one shot? That hasn't been done.
That may be what, I don't know about looking about new equipment. We get a lot of complaints about the equipment we have now that's not being used. So I think
Mhm.
So we're looking at, I just reminded me, Bob Ferguson coming in and did a presentation on the actual road sloping.
Yeah, I
know you
read
had to
all
look
that.
at that, and just, because water buildup on the roads is one of the major issues of
Yeah.
the bad roads. And I was looking at the Good Roads Association website just the other day. They've got all kinds of these training sessions that you don't even have to leave your municipality. I was just wondering about that.
No,
You're
all
looking
good
at-
stuff, great stuff, you know. Just right now, on interim measure, those things aren't happening.
Yeah.
That's, you know,
No, it's just if there's damming going on and water laying on the road, and it's just, you fix it, it doesn't matter, because next year it's going to
And we're working right now. Some of the issue is, there's a couple of sections of street where I say, we should go repave that whole street. But what I want to get done, and it's been a long time since we did, and Margaret and I have talked about this, is water main and sewer main inspection. Because I'd hate to go pave a street this summer and then tell you in January they got to take it up because they got to replace all the infrastructure. So it's been a long time since we did what we call Wims and Sims water main and sewer main inspection. So right now I've been working with Aqua to look at getting some sewer main inspection work done on some of the areas where we think we need to repave the whole street and get that infrastructure looked at first. We don't have that done today, so it's very hard to go say, let's go repave a bunch of streets when we better check out the infrastructure.
That makes absolute sense.
Yeah, so we have, Aqua's doing some pricing right now for me to do some water main or sewer main inspection work for us right now. So leak detection of the water system and inspection of the sewer system, to me, is money better spent today than repaving the street, although I know the street's in bad shape.
Okay, like saying that, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
With a budget of, what is it, 250,000 we have set aside there now? Or allocated?
Through the chair, that's this year's gas tax. So there are also gas tax funds from prior years. We have 545 in there as well.
That's carried
From
over.
previous years. So this is just an allocation, and we can also use those other gas tax funds. This has no impact on the tax rate or the budget, whether it's done or not done this year. So if it's not done, the money will just go right into the reserve to be used next year. So without a plan, I appreciate what Mr. Crane is saying. This can be approved in principle, basically, is what you're doing, and then the work can be done once it's identified.
Okay.
This is one of the unique situations with gas tax money.
Are those line inspections due? You're trying to get that done this
So
year?
the sewer main, we're looking at getting done right now. We have OSEPA money
Uh-huh.
that we can use for that. And Aqua provides that, has a fee-for-service, but they can do it in-house. So we're talking with them right now about doing some of that this year. So,
Includes water lines as well?
no, leak detection, I haven't got down to leak detection on the water lines yet, but just working right now to get the sewer main inspection done first. It's a separate job, separate component, separate tools. So looking at that right now is a first step. I forget, I looked back, it was over 14 years ago, I believe, even longer now, that the last time we did any sewer main inspection work.
So McKinga came in?
No, prior to even that. Yeah, prior to when McKinga came in. He did infiltration, which Margaret talked about, the ventured money, that was paying back the loan. That, when McKinga did, that was that money.
Okay.
So what exactly did they do? What do you mean by?
They reduced water infiltration into the sewer system. So we had leaking pipes and broken pipes.
Okay.
And a lot of storm water going into our sanitary sewer.
Okay.
So they did work to divert water, storm water away from our sanitary sewer. So that was a lot of work that they did.
Okay. Now, is there a possibility to have the water lines looked at this stage? Because they are obviously aging as well. Our community is fairly old
Yeah.
now.
One thing about water leaks, we'll wait and we can find it. It'll come to surface. And if you look around town, you'll see a number of them around town. We're working on one today. But yeah, you're right, to get in and do leak detection, because we have leaks that we don't know are there because they don't come to surface.
Right.
So, and there's all kinds of technology you see coming out recently to do that work. We can bring a contractor in to do that. But
Because I think that would be another thing to look at as well before, like you said, ripping up a street, paving it, and then having to go in because as the water lines are freezing and that sort of thing, and you have to tear it all up again.
Yeah.
Possible we can deflect some of the funding to do the leak detection and get it all
It's
done?
restrictions. I was supposed to phone the lady and find out what we can use the gas tax money for. I just haven't got around to making that phone call either to look.
Wiser to get that
It's
inspection
restricted.
done first.
Yeah. But getting the water and sewer mains looked at before you do a total street repave, not saying not to fix a bad pothole or a big site or something like those small
Right.
repairs. And that's what we did last year was potholes and dig sites basically for $300,000.
Well, when you said we generate our own asphalt just by dig ups, and when
Yeah, we save
when
all
you
that.
took apart the tennis court,
We took some of that, a lot of it was not
Some of
usable,
it, okay.
so we took it to the landfill site, we'll use it for road bed at the landfill site is the plan.
Okay, so it still got reused.
We've done, if we dig up Ashwaubenon, for instance, we'll save that asphalt, put it down, and that's what the recycler does, it allows us to use that product back for patching models.
Okay.
This is OSEPA spending, water treatment plant renovations. That's OSEPA special project funding, I think. Yeah. So we got a grant, as Mark had mentioned, for that. And like I say, the generator, I think, was part of that project, the new generator at the water plant. And now we just awarded work for $800 and some thousand for new lift pumps or distribution pumps at the water treatment plant. New UV system for the water treatment plant, and well pumps will be a component of this project as well. Next project, lagoon replacement. This is OSEPA money. We have 2 blowers at our lagoon. We spend approximately $50,000 a year on hydro alone at the blower station. We have no instrumentation on that system, so we're not monitoring what they call dissolved oxygen in the lagoons. We've had testing done. We're running 8 and 9% dissolved oxygen. We can be down as low as 2, and you control that by running your blowers off and on. Type of blowers and the valving we have is not conducive to starting and stopping. It's a manual valve system, and it takes about 7 or 8 hours to go back, because you have to start the system and then put weights on the valve and keep going back and putting weights on to get the lagoon aerating right properly. So I got a quote the other day from the same engineering firm we're using for the water treatment plant to look at our lagoon system and give us a proposal for dissolved oxygen meters, automatic valving, and potential blower replacement, whether we keep the blowers we have now and use automatic valves, or upgrade the blowers as well to something more efficient, with the end goal being to reduce the hydro cost from the $50,000 a year down to a manageable level, just by using run time, because right now we're overrunning the blowers, but there's no way to regulate.
And it takes somebody out of the factor too. Like right now, you physically have to send somebody there to do that, as opposed to if you upgrade the system, it would just be computerized.
Be computerized, automatic valve. So we bring a company in like Automation Now or something like now that does that type of work. So the first step is to hire EXP, the engineering firm, to do a review on the operation and what we really need there. I know there was a plan to replace blowers last year, and I looked at it. I thought, I just don't want to go buy blowers without having the study done, and then look at the automation end as well.
So is that similar to what they have at Chico?
I'm not sure. This is on the sewer lagoons itself. If you go to Karamat Road, the area.
Yeah. No, I just mean the computerized system that you could see what's going on.
Yeah, it would be Aqua operators. They're the operators of that system. They oversee and manage that for us as well.
Okay.
It would be our capital project, obviously. But the day-to-day operations out there are part of our water and sewer operating and maintenance contract, so they do that. I would expect down the road, if we went to automated systems, that they would hook it into their SCADA system so they can remotely see what's going on. They weren't even aware, because they don't see the hydro bill. The hydro bill comes to us. So I had a meeting with them a little while ago, and they weren't even aware of how much a year we're spending on hydro over there. So the talk comes, we can greatly reduce that. So I forget the price of boilers has been looked at before. So if we cut that hydro bill in half, not very many years you got your money back.
Oh God,
you have a savings going down the road.
Yeah, big time.
So we're going to save Shelley here, and we're going to take a look at her budget. So the boiler replacement, that work has already been done. Community center roof repairs that they did last year, we were waiting on, the last we're not sure that's being used, so Shelley will need some time to catch up on that project. So there was 196,000 put into reserves last year to pay for that project. Kitchen upgrades, we have to put a new floor and a new grill at the clubhouse. What we have is old and sadly in need of repair. The health inspector came in, we have some concerns, so we need to get that work done. It was anticipated the budget would be passed long before now, and we would have that work done before we opened this year. We're not going to do that mid-season, so this work will be completed once the building is finished for the season. This is the new propane line that Owen had mentioned earlier, and I have a resolution for pre-budget approval for both of those projects if council so wishes. Pool heater replacement, this is a bit of a wild card. So we budgeted $3,000 for the pool heater. We have no idea at this point what the actual costs are going to be. So in an effort to move the project forward, we put the original $30,000, which is what we anticipated the heater would be. Once we have the known costs, we will let council know that and we'll fund the balance from reserves. So that's where we stand with that. Do you want to add anything? Myself?
So it is a lot of infrastructure is hugely old. We discovered a leak prior to getting the key done.
And discovered a leak. So we have to dig up the deck. We got that piece replaced last week. Pressurized. Another one broke. So I've got a huge crew over there trying to see if we can work on it. I understand why it is actually getting broken. And I'm going to put in the screws to them. I was there at 7 o'clock this morning to get them moving. Again, pressurized and moving through it. Here's a reminder, I just got a text from someone who's trying to watch this live and they can't hear, so please speak into your microphone.
So once we finish with the pipe leak, then they're going to proceed with the heat for the pool. Everything's on site, ready to go, but again, it depends on how well infrastructure supports the renovation.
Are they here till it's done?
Yes, sir.
You're not letting them leave town?
I will not pay the exorbitant amount of overtime costs if I don't see the labor as being useful. So
If you're waiting for something, you're going to send them home, get your
exactly.
stuff,
So
come
that's what
back,
happened
be
last weekend. I
cost
wasn't
efficient
going
for sure.
to have them sit around doing
Yeah.
nothing. Not that they do, but
Nope.
let's get the bulk of the work done and we'll go from there. The goal is to be able to do water sampling and such this weekend.
Knock on wood, hope for the
Knock on
best.
wood. So I'll keep you guys informed as soon as I know. I'll let you guys know as well as Margaret.
So that's it for 2019 capital budget. So is there any project in here that council does not wish to approve in the final budget? Or do you wish to discuss any of these projects for any budget inclusion at this point?
What was in reserve, no harm, no foul.
I can, if council wishes to take a 5-minute break, I can go upstairs and get the working paper for that.
Do we want to discuss of these things? Or-
Did you want
I still have a concern about the $110,000. Those are my two issues that concern me.
So with the 20,000, say you were to replace that and it only cost you 5,000, then you would just
The surplus money left
Right.
over, is yeah. I'm hoping for around 12,000 actually. Goes from the budget numbers and stuff, but I have to go with the suppliers and what they recommend for a budget number in as well. I'm hoping I could have it done for around 12,000.
So Mr. Cranley, could we reduce that to 15?
Well, right now from the supplier, the quotes I have, it's coming in to indicate that the budget number.
What type of material are you planning on replacing it with?
It's metal, powder coated metal, so you can wash them, clean them, disinfect them, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Just to get the carbon off and stuff that gets on the wood and stuff that you can't really pressure wash, and it doesn't dry. It's not like I can take the gear off for 4 days and leave it off the racks. And
No,
stuff like that.
I know, yeah.
No, I can appreciate what you're saying with the
Yeah.
wood, yes, but I mean, if the wood lasted 20 years.
That's kind of where I was going with
It
it.
seems like a lot of money.
We could take a walk and go look at it right now. It's right here. I mean,
Yeah.
it just doesn't seem like,
A lot of money to
That's
spend
huge.
for a closet, or not a closet, but
it's a hanger, basically.
Hanger, yeah.
It's got a bench on the bottom, and you got a place to put your bunker gear, and it's all made out of 2x4s wood. It's not a bad idea to upgrade it, but
yeah.
I mean, what's there now has worked good for the last 25 years. Maybe look at possibly replacing that and then putting something on the wood, or doing like what Mr. Cranny wants with steel.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike.
There's options, right? But
Back of my mind, over the backup generator is the fuel type. This is diesel. Would there be something we could get, either gas, propane, do a search for something
other
on the
options?
used end of it too that would also suit? Like, would we be able to look at different options there?
With all due respect,
Oh, I'm sorry,
can we stick on one project and then, so that we're not bouncing back between, so if we're going to talk about the PPE, let's make a decision on the PPE and then go to the generator so that we're not bouncing back and forth.
Okay.
I fear that this is not going to get resolved today.
Oh, we can go look at it. I don't know.
So I need a consensus of council whether they agree with leaving the PPE or whether you want it removed. If you require more information, then we'll have to schedule another meeting prior to the 30th, because I will be presenting the final draft on the 30th.
So this is an estimate. It's not a firm quote on what steel shelves would cost.
No.
So it could come in a lot less.
This is purchased and installed, okay? I haven't talked to the volunteers yet about possibility.
Okay.
They built what's there before. The volunteers did all that labor cost and all that
Okay.
work. I want to look at the product, select. There's a couple different manufacturers of the powder-coated products we're looking at. Possibly, we would do the install ourselves and save a substantial, because somebody's coming from out of town to install, there's a substantial part of the cost.
Right.
So that's what I talk about, we'd be around $12,000. That would be us installing them ourselves, taking the old stuff down, putting new stuff up, and doing that. So
Anyway,
that reduced the cost considerably, but I don't have that
right?
today, so I have to budget for having it done and having it installed.
Okay, my suggestion is to reduce it by 50%.
If you're going to do that, I would suggest to keep it in the 12,000 range, not 10, because that would give me the in-house labor
Okay.
if I can do that.
12,000. That's my suggestion then.
Mr. Cranny, you said you've already been sourcing these and
Oh, I went and got quotes, for what we looked at for the pricing, and that included install. So this brings that number. When I look at what the travel, the install, and all the stuff is, at 12,000, we could probably install it ourselves.
Is this pretty well a standard
Yes,
piece of
it is.
equipment that's in every other fire hall?
Yes, it is standard. That's exactly what it's for. It's PP, rack equipment. The biggest thing is to get the carbons and stuff off the clothes and keep them clean.
I only fear that we spend a lot of money on things that are, it's good to have, it's nice, and like you said, it's hygiene, right? It just seems like an awful lot of money for a place to hang up your gear.
So there's a proposal on the table to make this line item $12,000 as opposed to 20. Is there any disagreement with that suggestion?
I don't disagree with that.
Again, too,
Bring
like
it
he had
in.
said, with it being 20,000, if he only spends 12,000, it's still just capital money, so it's not
Right.
It's not like he's going to go out and try to spend 20,000. Obviously, try to get the best deal, right?
Okay,
Certain.
so for the benefit of the new council, you're still taxing the ratepayer $20,000.
Pardon?
So
Whether
you're
it-
still taxing, because this is coming out of the revenue fund, you are still taxing the ratepayer $20,000.
Whether they use the 20 for this
Whether he
with the
uses
install
20
or only 12.
Correct, but if we drop...
If you reduce it to the 12, that's all he has. If it comes in substantially more, he would either have to go to the volunteers or come back to council to do that. So that's the difference. There are some line items that,
Lots of stuff on there.
pool heater, and that you really have no idea, but that's the difference. What would happen is if you come in at 10, then the other 10 would get to reserves in year end. But you're still taxing the ratepayer today.
So you're taxing the ratepayer $110,000 for a backup generator?
You would be, yes.
Yeah, I think
Unless
we need
council
to
wants
look at
to.
that seriously.
No, but like she
Okay.
said, let's stick
We
with
got to
one
stay on
subject
one
here.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I agree.
I'd say go to 12 and see if we have to bump it up through reserves at 8 more after, because it is taxing the ratepayer.
My suggestion would be 15 instead of 12, just to give him a small amount of leeway, not going to the full 20, but he said he could probably do it for 12, but just in case there's that little bit, because getting an estimate and getting a quote, there's always that little bit of error sometimes, or, prices change between now and when he got the quote and when he can purchase it. So my suggestion would be 15 instead of 12, 15,000 instead of 12,000.
I'll second that.
Is he in agreement with that? Do I have 3 in agreement with that?
Sure.
Can I see a
Sure.
show of hands, please?
I just think we've got to be really careful with our rate taxing our ratepayers and maybe relook at things if we have to.
I'd like to see the backup generator just taken right out.
I'd like to see everything looked at very carefully.
That's what we're here for.
So we don't increase the ratepayer tax if we can at all help.
Okay, I would have to agree with Mike with the $110,000 for the generator. I do not think that's an expense that we should go ahead with at this time.
Other comments from the floor?
You currently said you have a generator that you use?
We have a small Honda generator we use, so we can either back up the fire hall. All we back up in the fire hall is a little bit of lights, a radio, and open and close the bay doors for the trucks. Okay, so we have to come down and start that every time we're going to do that. So it started, like I mentioned, we started looking at how do we improve that system, and we were talking $25,000 roughly. So we said, okay, what would it take to do the whole building and have the heat on? I know $110,000 seems like a lot of money, but we're talking something that has a 25-year life, probably minimum. So you're talking $4,000 a year to have this whole place backed up and run. And as a municipality, it's our job when there is problems, power outages, sewer breaks, and all this stuff, to come and manage that as a whole, the whole community. So having the proper facilities, to do that, I think is important. So I understand it's $100,000 one-time cost, but over the life of the unit, I think the value is great value for the municipality.
I agree that the unit might be necessary, but is there a possibility to use money from the wellness fund to pay for that $110,000?
Doesn't matter where you get the money from.
Generator is
Because it makes a difference right now if it's going in reserve.
But what you're using then is the wellness fund for capital purchases, which was not really the intent
It's not
of
the
the
intent.
NWMO. It's supposed to be for community wellness. The benefit of the community, not to, I think it would be frowned upon by NWMO if we were using it to subsidize capital.
That's what I was
fund.
asking.
Yeah, where the pool would be, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, how many generators do we have in town right now for backup? Like we got one for the water plant.
We have one for the water plant. We have one for the sewer plant.
Okay.
Water
Large.
plant is built in. though.
Well, those are built in, they're
Not-
stationary
I understand
generators.
that, yeah.
That's it.
So we got the two.
Yeah.
So the one at the water plant, is it big enough that you could potentially feed another source?
You mean run cable from the water plant over to here?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, you got a
It's not been
generator
looked
running.
at. Yeah.
Just as an idea, I mean, instead of having 3-4 generators running around town, have a generator running if it was big enough, right? It'd have to be type of a survey done or investigation to see if it was plausible, and just run a power cable to this side of the town, as opposed to putting in a whole new entity of itself. And again, I agree with you guys. It's important that we have power here, and it's important that we have our communication systems in place. But it just seems like an awful lot of money.
So there's a couple of other alternatives for council to consider. We are now halfway through the year and going into the winter season. One thing Mr. Cranny didn't mention is this is our control center for emergency control. So should it come down to the fact that we need power in this building immediately. That being said, you could fund part of it from the revenue fund, you could fund part of it from reserves. You could transfer half of the cost into reserves this year, $55,000, budget the rest next year. So you're spreading it over 2 years. You wouldn't physically purchase it though until 2020. Could be purchased early in 2020 with a resolution of pre-budget approval rather than waiting until the budget is passed. So there are a couple of alternatives only if council thinks this is a viable purchase in the first place.
You're going to have to be construction season install.
Okay, so even pre-approval wouldn't happen for next year. You could make it part of your regular budget process. Should council at the end of the day decide, even if you do put money aside this year, that it isn't a viable project in 2020, those funds could certainly be used for other capital purchases. It doesn't disappear. So you could purchase something and fund it out of reserves.
So to clarify, what you're saying is we could put half of it away this year, and then next year make the final decision on it, with whether half being budgeted next year.
Yes.
I'm just clarifying what you said.
Yes, because then it's going to go into reserves for equipment replacement, but it would be sort of earmarked for the generator. Should council decide that they don't next year want to buy that generator, you've got another $50,000 for other major equipment purchases that you would just fund from reserves, not the revenue fund.
Mr. Cranny, you had said you'd looked at upgrading what you have now, and it would be about $25,000. What would that upgrade be?
It would be a small version of this that would strictly do the fire hall. And again, when we looked at the cost of doing that and look at what, the community as a whole, I'm thinking this is why we recommended to go this way. You know, the fact that there's no backup heat in this building enough, and if there is a municipal emergency going on, we need this facilities to deal with it. That's our plan. That's our whole municipal plan. Emergency plan is that way.
You say there's no backup heat. This works on a boiler system? Like the heat for the
Yeah,
whole building?
it's not the boiler that runs on propane.
Yeah.
It's all the circulating pumps, controls, and air handlers that are tied part of that system. And a lot of that stuff is large three-phase motor stuff.
Okay.
So that's why, you know, you're looking at a substantial generator and stuff. You know, and I understand, you know, if we sit here today and as Margaret mentioned, $52,000 is 1% on your budget. So we're talking about 2% total overall. And we started the meeting with a 2.25% tax increase.
If
Correct.
it's
That's exactly what I was kind of getting at, is that I believe this is a great idea. Should it be funded all in 1 year and have the tax raised 2% over one item? I disagree. If we, you know, divvy it up to 2, 3, 4 years, you know, and, you know, eventually we will have it.
So, Margaret, if we use your suggestion, that would decrease by our rate by 1% roughly?
I'm just going to actually do that now. This spreadsheet works lickety-split.
Taking half from reserves and half from revenue.
So you're talking half and half, Mr. Mayor?
55,000.
I'd like to see in 3 years myself.
The cost would go up exponentially in 3 years.
Yeah, if we went 30,000 a year, that would be 120. No, what am I doing? 40,000 a year
What
would be
was
120.
the asset management section about again? Gosh.
7.2448. So you go from 7.3 to, and your tax rate comparison. So a $50,000 house would only go to $33.59. You'd actually only be,
Increasing.
yeah. Now, I do have another suggestion for council.
And all the other commercial are actually getting a tax decrease.
Yes,
Council understands that as well?
but that's education.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, but if you look at the total tax levy change,
Right.
so all our commercial and industrial are actually getting a tax decrease this year.
They are this year anyway, yeah.
Only because the education rate has gone down.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I do have another suggestion for council. I gotta get back to that spreadsheet. So, there's definitely been some questions surrounding the snow wing. Mr. Cranny has indicated that it's not his intention to purchase it, you know, as the acting. If council would have the same impact if you were to just remove that line until the public works superintendent returns. We're late in the year now. That could be put forward as a 2020 budget item by the manager at that time. You could leave this at the 110 if council wished, and you're still going to have about a 0.8.
I think that's more ideal because we don't have answers and we can't ask him questions specifically on that.
Yeah, I could give you
And
the
if we
working
can-
paper, but it certainly wouldn't answer. It certainly wouldn't answer any questions.
No. So if we do that and take that line out of there, and then it would go into the backup generator.
So if I change this back up to 110.
So with the backup generator, do other communities of our size, do they run something like that? Was there any type of
I
research
believe
done
they
to?
do. I believe they do. Ryan would have a better idea
Sorry, yeah,
when
I
he
just
comes
stepped
back
out.
in through emergency measures.
But we also have it at the hospital.
So it's another generator at the hospital, so if we
yes.
had to use their photocopier or their
Yeah.
computer,
Oh,
we
yeah.
could potentially use that.
We have to have it.
Slide into our system, so for example.
We would have to haul our whole server over there, which is never going to happen.
Oh, you could.
Or just a USB with the
No, you'd
boil
never-
We
water.
couldn't get on them. We couldn't get on. So what happened in the case of the boiled water, none of our computers would boot up. So they were all tied to the server, so we couldn't even access our files because we couldn't get the internet to get onto our server. So like we were totally down. So
Randy happened to be in the building because Owen was managing the emergency itself as the emergency coordinator. Randy went and begged and borrowed something off the fire truck because they didn't need it that day. And it was just enough to get one computer up and get the photocopier working, which allowed us to get boil water, which were urgent notices to get out. Because everything was tied to our server, even all of our contacts and all of our files and all of our were on that server. So lesson learned there, that stuff is on stick now.
Yeah.
But those are the situations we sort of find ourselves in.
That generator is very important.
Every
It's the
situation
same
that
thing
occurs-
as the hospital.
It's not even close to the hospital, John.
No,
Sorry,
but
but that's a whole new ballgame.
I know, but what I'm saying is that
Hospital,
that's
you're dealing with lives.
That's what they have, is that kind of a generator.
No, I understand that, yeah.
Okay. This is more towards Kathy's question about the snow wing and blade. I mean, looking at those numbers between the sand truck and the snow wing and blade, I'm just curious if the sand truck could be attached with a wing or plow blade that would offset the cost of the loader.
That's included in the price that I presented, is a truck with a blade in.
With the blade in front, okay.
Yes.
So
And
that
we have a
would-
grader.
So there we go. This would be upgrading 2 extra pieces of equipment versus.
Oh, we have a blade and wing on the one we own now.
Right. Okay, but
So the new one would have it as well?
yes, is what he's saying that.
Yes.
But on the loader part, that would be like having an additional piece of equipment for the roads.
But
So
we
up
also
to-
have a grader.
Yes, that's right. Up to
So
3. So like
at this
yeah.
time, we could deal with like removing that from the budget.
Correct.
For the loader accessories.
So this is the impact of that, moving the generator back up to 110, and removing the 49.5 for the snow plow wing. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what it's called.
Yeah.
So on a $50,000 house, because of the education break, primarily because of the education break, the taxes would be, terrible eyes,
$8
$6 or $8.
$8.
844 is that?
That's the increase,
For 1 year.
yes, over last year. It'll be $8 more this year.
Now, you really have to keep in mind, though, what we keep saying about assessment. You know, that's on a $50,000 house. So if your house was 50 last year, this year, you're going to see $8. If your house went from 50 to 55, you're going to see more than $8,
You see $8.80.
depending on what your assessment changed.
No, but it would be 10% more.
10% more.
Depends on what your assessment changed by.
Yeah,
But that's what
not
you
every
said,
house.
50 to 55.
Oh, sorry, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So from
Yeah.
50 to 55 is a 10% increase.
So that's just an average on that number, just depending
that
on the value
number.
of each person's individual
Yeah, so
home.
if it was
Yes.
50 last year, 50 this year, it'll be an $8.50
So
increase.
if it's 55, it's 880.
Right. So my suggestion then would be for the loader, snow wing, and blade, remove that and put that funds towards the backup generator. That's my opinion on the matter. I think that would be the way to go. Instead of splitting the price up over, the cost up over 2 years, we could just do that, and that's basically almost half the price of it.
Or we could do both.
The problem with splitting it is that you couldn't buy it until
Correct.
it's paid for, which means if it's necessary now, we're delaying it for another 3 years.
Could we look at something else too, like more details under asset management?
Asset management is the asset management plan. It's mandated by the province. There's no getting out of that one.
Ah.
This is year 2 of a 2-year project.
Okay.
Did we want to talk about the
Was there any
electronic door system at all, or?
Pardon?
Everybody okay with that? $30,000 for the electronic door system?
Maybe we
I'm
could,
okay with that,
Okay.
with that door system.
Can you
Yes.
get a show of hands on that?
well,
Okay. The 2 changes we've made, the generator and the snow plow, do I have a consensus of council on that change?
So
I still think-
you're suggesting go with the 110 and no snow blade?
I'm just taking the conversations from the
Yes.
room. and-
That's what I suggested,
Yeah,
was
that's
go with the
just-
110, remove the snowplow from the loader. That's my suggestion to
The
council.
thing about taking away the snowplow, like that might be, he might have put that in there for job specific, like an actual something for that machine to do something. In my opinion, I don't know. We don't have no information on it, unfortunately.
I can get it.
Like what's been said, Margaret can get it, but we don't have it right now. I just fear that if we take something like a snow removal tool out of the equation, that
Without knowing
we
all the
might
details.
we might be taking something away that we don't know what it's used for, or
Well-
what it was potentially going to be used for.
And further to your conversation, though, Councillor Scapanello, is that if we don't know what they're used for and Mr. Barnes is not back to work, then it won't be used for anything specific anyway. We don't know the intent of it.
Okay.
So,
Where the new snowplow truck would probably compensate a lot
Okay.
for what that piece of
and at that spot, there may not be a need for that. And,
Correct.
you know, Mr. Barnes can
Yes.
reconsider that for the 2020 budget. Is it still a requirement?
Well, I agree with Councillor Hudson's suggestion. Take the 49 off and then have the full amount for the,
Okay, so can I see a show of hands in favor of that?
Not yet.
Okay.
I myself,
Nervous.
I would say keep the snow wing off and put the backup generator over 2 years.
So is it council's intent to reduce taxes?
I'd
I'd
like
like to
if we're
see
lucky
a
enough,
zero
that'd be
increase.
wonderful.
Zero increase would be.
That's
not
what
very
I'd like
nice.
to see.
If council wants a zero increase, I can do the generator and, huh?
We're there.
Well, we are, we're at 1%.
On a $50,000 house, you're talking $8 increase for the
Yeah.
year. Are you not at zero?
I hear you.
I will caution council because it is your new council. I know a lot of this is big money. Historically, and John, you can vouch for this, we're in a situation with a lot of the things that we're in with aging equipment, aging infrastructure, because, and I know the generator is sort of the exception to that, but councils historically don't ever want to see a budget increase. And we haven't had one in 3 years. You know, that's pretty substantial. Some of that has been, you know, losing staff, gaining staff, work not getting done, and quite honestly, a lack of managers putting in capital requests because they were always told no. So we failed in keeping our equipment up to date, keeping our vehicles up to date, keeping our roads up to date as a result of that. I don't personally, as a treasurer, believe that reducing the tax rate is the correct thing. Maybe a zero, where you are zero. But what I would suggest is if you want to reduce the backup generator, then you increase your reserves. Because you know already you're going to be over 30,000 and you're going to be tagging your reserves for that pool.
Correct.
Either way, you're going to be tagging your reserves for that pool.
Why have we given the pool basically a blank check? Have we not?
Because
put
this
some type
council has
of,
said
yeah,
that they don't want
for
to see any
recreation.
of the
Okay.
infrastructure closed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have no choice.
See, I totally agree with you as far as the infrastructure aging. And if we were talking about money for water, sewer, roads, something like that, yes, I'd be all for it. But the generator, to me, is like buying a new car and say, okay, I could do without leather seats, but I want them. Is how I see this. So, you know, it would, if more money was put towards
I think
the
we
roads
just
and stuff, great.
We definitely need some more information.
Yeah, but the generator, yes, we could probably use it, but do we need to dish out 110 all at once? I don't think so. So maybe split it over 2 years. And if there was another way that we could put more of that money into the upgrading the roads, because that is a very visual thing, and that is something that a lot of people complain about. And it's also beautification of the town.
So this could be done. The backup generator goes back down to 55 or whatever council agrees is an appropriate number. I would bump up this by the same value that you reduce it. I don't think your tax increase is exorbitant given everything that I've told you that the previous council and this council, when you've got 7.1% increase in your taxes, in your salaries alone, 50,000, and we know that we're underestimating this year because we've had vacancies.
Mhm.
So what you don't want to set yourself up for is an even higher tax rate next year.
Because it will be higher. They will
Because
be.
we have unknowns. We know that we have the OMPF that in all likelihood is going to go down, and in our case, it could be significant. We may not be able to afford that $55,000 next year without a double-digit tax increase. Not fear-mongering, but that could be a reality, right? We could be 100,000 short next year. With what's going on with the health unit, we have to be aware that we may see significant increases in that cost as well. It's a bargaining year next year, so we know we're going to have labor increases. Most likely we'll have labor increases. So just be aware that you may not have that liberty next year or that flexibility. If you want to do generator, you may need to go to reserves. Sort of long-term thinking instead of just this year, what is the tax rate this year?
Just we spent a lot of money this year already.
I honestly think that the tax rate at 0.97, the levy increase is pretty notable, actually, I think.
Well, I definitely like those
It's
numbers.
outrageous.
No, I definitely like those numbers. I just do not like, I don't totally agree with the allocation of where the monies are going. That's what I'm saying.
So if we keep the 49.5 removed and we leave the 110 for the generator, is that where that 0.97 is?
Yeah.
That's where it puts us at.
Yes.
So that's under.
These are all tied together,
Under
so you make
1%.
one change, this
It's
whole
under
thing's going to
1%.
change.
Correct.
I designed this to do that.
Correct.
Like I say, you can do the 110 and leave the tax rate where it is and transfer the balance into reserves. You're going to need to tag reserves this year for the pool anyway, once it comes back.
Yes.
Regardless.
Maybe we should,
Yeah, but
I mean, we spent $120,000 on a snow blower, and it's $110,000 for a generator. So, kind of gives perspective of where it sits.
should we be discussing the reserve funds, where we are there?
You actually have that worksheet. It's page 3 of your Schedule A.
Again, too, if
Schedule
you're asking
C.
for $110,000 for a generator, and you were able to get one installed for, call it 80
For 90, yeah.
or 90, then you're still ahead.
Yep. And the exercise will be done.
Yep.
So this year, in this year's budget, this number right here, the 842, is what we're going to be taking out of reserves. So at the beginning of the year, with the year-end transfers, the surplus that the auditor mentioned and all the year-end adjustments, our reserves were at $7.3 million. We're going to be taking out $842,000 this year if all these projects are completed this year. We're only putting, notwithstanding the NWMO funds, which are replenishing money we took out last year, we're only increasing our reserves by 202. So we're spending way more than we're replacing. You can go, a municipality can go broke pretty quick at that ratio.
So it'd be spending $600,000.
No, we're scheduled to spend 842.
842, and then we'd be topped back up with
Well,
200 and
for
something thousand.
other projects, though.
For other projects.
Yeah.
But it all goes into the same pot.
Technically. But it would be earmarked for those projects.
Okay.
So my point is that part of the asset management, when they look at, our ratios, they look at the cost of replacing our assets, and when we're spending more than we're putting in, we're falling further and further behind having the funding for replacement cost. which is why we're going through the whole asset management project right now.
Maybe I missed it or whatever, but I didn't see anywhere on there where you guys had like a maintenance program where I understand we do regular maintenance through the mechanics and that at the town shops and that, but what type of programs do we have?
We don't. We have an in-house one that we run right now for work orders.
Yeah.
We don't have a external supply maintenance program.
We talk a lot about aging infrastructure and stuff.
Yeah.
And if we had a maintenance program put in place where things were being checked.
A lot of that is asset management, especially for things like water, sewer pipes, and valves. That's asset management.
Like now that we spend all this money on the pool, is there a program in place to make sure that these types of things don't happen again?
That's part of the
There will be.
cost of business, right? There's
Doing your
training
operation.
involved, there's operational procedures that have to be written, and follow up with contractors that'll.
So what I'm referring to is basically somebody's taking ownership, who's taking responsibility for saying that plant is serviced and it's ready to go into the winter stages, right? I mean, a lot of our, again, the speculation, some of the damage may have occurred through the winter months, right? Frost, water in the pipes potentially. Somebody didn't blow out a line. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but I'm just wondering if we do have something put into place, or if we could get something put into place that would verify that these machines and these facilities are being taken care of to their fullest potential, as opposed to let's run it until it wears out and let's replace it. That's
Your point is well taken.
But that's what asset management is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get Chris to come and speak for a second. And part of the issue with the community center is the management in the last quite a few number of years have been more recreation specific. That was their niche, the programming, not so much the facility maintenance side of it. When we advertised this job this time, it was very clear to us that, we have a wonderful programmer who excels at her job and does, lots of great things. We didn't need a second person who knew the programming. We needed someone who clearly understood buildings, facilities, maintenance, updates. And so when we hired and advertised this time, we definitely changed the scope of the job. And Shelley meets those criteria rather than the programming and getting the people in the door kind of qualifications. So we should see significant improvement on that in the upcoming year. So Chris, put you on the spot. Do you want to give us an idea of where we are with asset management?
We're balanced for. So we're pretty well balanced to our auditors' reports for 17 and 18. Just a few minor hiccups from the transition from our old software, our old technique to the new technique to software. And we're sitting good there. We'll have that fixed up, and I'm almost ready to roll with 2019. Something major as I was at the conference, I learned a lot on the actual asset management portion of it and condition assessment reporting on how valuable that is. There's no words to describe how valuable that is, and it'll give us a timeline, a projection of pretty much every asset we have, and with new PSAB regulations, we have to report on every asset. So it's just going to paint you a picture. It's going to be a lot of work. We need to have people come in. We need assistance getting the condition reporting because you need every section of road. It's very in-depth, and you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. But it will paint a picture, and it'll give you projected guidelines for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, the life of that tangible capital asset.
So this is new for Ontario, that the province has mandated that we all need to do this. So we're actually ahead of the game compared to a lot of other municipalities, but it's a ton of work, and never mind the part that Chris is doing, then we need the other managers to sort of look at their assets and are we missing anything? Do we, you may buy something that's got a 5-year lifespan, but you're not using it very often, or half the season, Zamboni, for example, so the lifespan basically doubled. Might be fully amortized, but still has a useful life, so then we have to go back in and recheck those numbers. So this is going to be a big component of, for example, Chris's job go forward once we actually get this all implemented. because it's the upkeep as well. And there will be some maintenance things in that program too. So we purchased a program called Citywide, and that's what we're going to use, and that's what we're installing.
So that, for example, if someone buys, let's say, a pickup truck, it's got a life expectancy of 5 years. If it goes down in 3 years, then that has to reflect in that program, or if it lasts beyond the 5 years, same thing.
But the program, the software itself will show both. Like if it fails, it's going to be lack of maintenance likely, right?
Right.
But if a pickup truck were to fail, it's still the life expectancy is supposed to be the 5 years. If it goes beyond that, which they do, there's programs in place. So if you're doing, roads would be a better example. I know more about roads than pickup trucks. But so you put in a section of road, it's supposed to last 20 years. Okay, so it's going to, you got your 20 year span, you're going to see a decrease from 100% to 0%. Okay, after 5 years, you do crack sealant, right? Then you just bought 5 more years. So now you had the curve. Now you're back up. You've got another 20 years projected, right? So all assets will go in that trend once the condition reporting is in. It's the initial getting that data.
So you say all assets are going to go in. Will there be, say, a certain cost as to something up to $5,000 goes in, or
as per our tangible capital asset plan?
We wouldn't be putting lawnmowers in. We do have a threshold based on the equipment.
Like a riding lawnmower potentially could be in there, right? But like a push mower worth a couple $100, you guys wouldn't put something like that in there. Okay.
And to answer your question, Councillor Moffat, so what would happen is we would look at the truck fully amortized over 5 years, which means it's no longer a valuable asset to us. But if it still has a useful life, we would then look at it, say it hasn't been used very much, so we might extend the useful life by 5 years. But if it hits a rock cut and it's gone, we would fully amortize it in that year, and then that asset disappears from our asset category.
Okay, correct.
So 2 very different scenarios on what would happen. So we're still small enough that it's not going to be an everyday thing, but it's still going to be a task to maintain that as we go, and the annual reviews of it. And
okay.
So did anybody have any other questions? But I'm not sure where we are right now.
No, I think that's good. I think because we're a new council, I think you have to understand that all municipalities in Ontario, up until 2009, was it, where they changed to the new accounting process? Very few municipalities had any idea what their assets were, really. I mean, all of a sudden now we think that we've got $25 million in assets, but that doesn't tell us when those are all going to expire and when we have to start replacing them. That's what he's doing with the asset management plan.
Municipalities were unique in that if we bought a truck, we bought it, we paid for it, it was ours, it disappeared. We didn't ever record assets, and the province made us start to do that. So even land, we may have it on our tax roll, but our buildings, we didn't keep those values because we never had to record them. So now the province has made this mandatory. All of the communities have to now go back and start valuing all of their assets, the conditions, and there's places smaller than us that just don't have the money or the expertise. We can get someone to come in and do some of those studies for us, and we can use the OSIPA money for that. So what we're going to do is try and get an intern to come in with an engineering background that can do the legwork, because the staff just doesn't have A, the capacity or B, the knowledge to be able to do that. It's beyond our scope as a group. So, but we are certainly moving forward with that project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So lunch is here, so if you want to just take a break for now, and then we can come back to revisit and possibly finalize this. So we'll break till council had indicated a half an hour when we talked about it. It's 12:30, good?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder, please.
Oh, you guys gotta. You're over there. Oh, yeah, I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
You need to sign.
Okay.
No.
can run out for 10 minutes.
As long as I have quorum, you can leave. If I don't have quorum, you don't get to go. No. Nobody gets a quorum.
You're golfing this morning?
No, Margaret wouldn't be so
She's asleep.
I know.
Who's the only one there? Few times and then, wow, there's a face, right?
That's the way it goes.
Obviously, you're a busy man.
Yes, I am very busy.
I guess. And how do you like the role?
So far, yeah, I'm learning a lot.
Is this your first time?
First time on council, yeah, but I've been on, like NWMO, I've been on it since it started.
Right,
2012. I used to be on the EDC, so I've
that's
been
a
on
background.
many boards.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's run my